Chapter 2382. It was something that Night Sorrow was confident in. Moreover, the quality of the materials was very high. It wasn't too difficult for him to refine it. After swallowing a few elixirs to recover his divine power, Night Sorrow successfully refined the divine artifact with 5 lightning tribulation feathers. Ding! When the long sword was refined, it let out a crisp dragon's cry. Good sword. This is what I Lu Jiangtian want. Seeing the longsword with 5 lightning tribulation feathers being refined, Lu Jiangtian's eyes turned green. He shouted in a trembling voice. He quickly stepped forward and grabbed the longsword, as if he was afraid that someone would snatch it away. At this moment, Lu Jiangtian was clearly a little out of control. His eyes were filled with greed, which gave Night Sorrow a bad feeling. A righteous person would never reveal such a look at any time. That feeling of greed was like falling into the devil's path. No wonder Brother Xianjizi said that Lu Jiangtian's character wasn't good. Just by looking at his eyes, it's clear that he's not a good person. It's better to stay away from people like him. Seeing Lu Jiangtian's expression, Night Sorrow thought to himself that he should avoid interacting with such people, and not help either side in the future. After pondering for a moment, Night Sorrow said, Captain Lu, the birth of a divine artifact requires a lightning tribulation. If there's nothing else, you can take the long sword and undergo the tribulation. Alright, I got it. With the long sword in hand, the originally cultured and refined Lu Jiangtian's tone suddenly turned cold. This was completely his subconscious reaction. Lu Jiangtian's character wasn't bad, but his strength was definitely not weak. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to become the captain of the market's enforcement team, and successfully passed the tribulation with the longsword. The other 4 members of the enforcement team were all envious. A divine artifact with 5 lightning tribulation feathers was already a rare treasure in Haibei City. Among the hundreds of millions of cultivators, there were probably less than 1,000 people who had one. Seeing Lu Jiangtian fiddling with the longsword with a fervent look in his eyes after passing the tribulation, Night Sorrow quietly left and returned to the market. How was it, Brother Night Sorrow? Did Lu Jiangtian make things difficult for you? Xianjizi asked when he saw Night Sorrow return. After the formation of the god-slaying squad, Night Sorrow had told them not to call him captain, and that everyone should address each other as brothers, so Xianjizi didn't change his way of addressing him. It's all right. I helped him forge a divine artifact with 5 lightning tribulation feathers. Night Sorrow spoke the truth. This didn't cost him much. Brother Night Sorrow, you can really forge 5 thunder calamity feathers. Hearing this, Neopatian was immediately surprised. Neopatian's perception and vision were very ordinary. Naturally, he was not as wise as Xianjizi. He could not see the extraordinariness of Night Sorrow. Yes. In the future, when you are strong enough, I will make one for you. If I have time, I will make a divine artifact with 3 lightning tribulation feathers for you. As for brother, I'll give you a divine artifact with 4 lightning tribulation feathers. As he spoke, Night Sorrow took out a defensive robe with 4 lightning tribulation feathers that he won from Wenrenhao from his spatial device, and handed it to Xianjizi. Although he had to prepare a lot of resources for his family, Night Sorrow felt that he should not mistreat Xianjizi and Neopatian. After all, they were brothers now. Thank you, Captain. Xianjizi, who was not courteous, secretly said. Oh right. Brother Night Sorrow, the little girl who looked for you last time. She came again just now. This time, she said that you will regret it if you don't go, because she knows the way to save your family. Is there such a thing? Hearing this, Night Sorrow, who had just sat down on the bamboo chair, stood up immediately. That's what she said. As for whether it's true or not, I can't be sure. But it's better to believe it than not. Xianjizi said and handed over a piece of paper. On the paper there were 2 lines of words. One line said that she had a clue to save Night Sorrow's family, and the other line was her address. After reading the address, Night Sorrow said in surprise, Isn't this where our mansion is? She's our neighbor. This address was the mansion that Han Qianlu fell into that day. It sounded like a shrewish voice at that time. Night Sorrow secretly recalled the situation that day and said to Xianjizi and Neopatian, The 2 of you take orders here. I'll go back for a while. Night Sorrow valued his family more than himself. Now that he had a clue, he naturally wanted to rush over as soon as possible. Today, you're not going anywhere. Take him down. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly came from the sky. It was Lu Jiangtian, who had brought 4 members of the market's enforcement team. Captain Lu, what's the meaning of this? Night Sorrow was puzzled. I've already given you the share and refined 5 lightning tribulation feathers for you. You owe me a favor. What's going on now? Bastard. You're asking the obvious. Lu Jiangtian reprimanded with a cold expression. Night Sorrow, oh Night Sorrow, ever since you came to the market, I've admired your talent and took care of you in every possible way. Now, not only did you refuse to pay the share, you even injured 2 of my subordinates with your cultivation. Now that their lives are in danger, I must take you back and give them an explanation. After Night Sorrow left, Lu Jiangtian had an evil thought in his heart during the sword test. He wanted to control Night Sorrow so that he could make more money for him. Therefore, he made up a groundless accusation. How can there be such a shameless person in this world? Hearing this, Night Sorrow was so angry that he was about to explode. He retorted, if you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. Didn't I give you the share just now? Also, when did I injure your subordinates? What proof do you have? Proof? In this market, my will is the proof. What are you waiting for? Take him down. Lu Jiangtian sneered. Lu Jiangtian, you're so shameless. Night Sorrow said disdainfully. Not only did you not pay the share, but you also injured the law enforcers. No one can save you. Run, you can't run away. Yishang, you've broken the rules. Surrender now. This will save your divine soul some pain. If you resist, don't blame us for being ruthless. The law enforcers who surrounded Night Sorrow from all directions threatened him. Haha, I broke the rules. I broke the rules, didn't I? Today no one can take me away. The 4 of them were all present and witnessed Night Sorrow refining the divine weapon for Lu Jiangtian. Now they were also distorting the truth. Night Sorrow was even angrier. If you want to take Brother Night Sorrow away, you'll have to defeat me first. Seeing that the situation was not good, Xianjizi immediately stood next to Night Sorrow and did not retreat at all. And me Niopatian. Although Niopatian did not have much combat power, he was still quite stubborn and was not a coward. Good. I, Night Sorrow, am fortunate to be able to become brothers with the 2 of you. Chapter 2383. Haha, you've just arrived, but you're quite popular. You even have the help of a mid-level feather god. Looks like I'll have to do it myself. Today none of you traitors will escape. Lu Jiangtian knew that Xianjizi was a mid-level feather god, and that his subordinates wouldn't be able to fight him. He took out a long sword from his spatial artifact and taunted Night Sorrow. I heard that you're quite good at refining. What do you think of my 5 Thunder Tribulation longsword? This was a complete mockery of Yishang. To be able to say such words, Lu Jiangtian was truly shameless to a certain extent. Your sword may be a divine artifact with 5 Thunder Tribulation feathers and good attributes, but it's an ominous sword. It's a sword that kills its master. You'll die by it one day. Night Sorrow naturally wouldn't let the other party be so shameless. He responded coldly. You deserve to die. In Lu Jiangtian's eyes, Night Sorrow was nothing more than a floating existence. After being mocked, his expression became sinister. He let out a cold harumph and slashed out with his sword. A dark red sword light shot toward Xianjizi. Although Lu Jiangtian said that Yishang deserved to die, he directly attacked Xianjizi with a sneak attack. Night Sorrow was his money tree, so he couldn't just kill him. Bam. In fact, Lu Jiangtian's true strength wasn't much stronger than Xianjizi's, but his longsword was a divine artifact with 5 Thunder Tribulation feathers, and it was a sneak attack. Xianjizi used his compass to block, but he was clearly slower by half a beat. The sword landed on his chest. If Night Sorrow hadn't given him a defensive robe with 4 Thunder Tribulation feathers, he would have been seriously injured. You deserve to die. Night Sorrow was furious that Xianjizi was injured by his own 5 Thunder Tribulation longsword. He took out the Bloodlust Banisher spear from his spatial artifact and held it in front of him. You dare to attack? Do you want to add to your crimes? Lu Jiangtian sneered when he saw Night Sorrow take out his divine artifact. He completely disregarded Night Sorrow's cultivation as a lesser feather god. Not only will I attack you, but I will also kill you. Patian, take good care of Xianjizi. Lu Jiangtian had touched Night Sorrow's bottom line, and his heart was filled with boundless killing intent. Even if I have to expose some of my trump cards today, I will still kill you. All of you die. Last time, when Ming 12 and the others had provoked him, Night Sorrow had taught them a lesson and not killed them. But today was different. Lu Jiangtian's attack had almost killed Xianjizi. This was something he could not tolerate. Seeing that the other 4 enforcers were surrounding Niu Patian, who was saving Xianjizi, Night Sorrow furiously thrust out his blood-chilling evil punishing spear. He was using a technique that he had just learned. Although it wasn't complete, it was more than enough to deal with ordinary low-level feather gods. The simple and unadorned Overlord spear pierced through space and time, heading straight for the heads of the 4 law enforcers. It was clearly a spear, but the 4 law enforcers felt that the spear was aimed at them. They blocked it with the divine artifacts in their hands. Poof, 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 poof. The sound of flesh exploding rang out 4 times in a row. Although the 4 law enforcers blocked with their divine artifacts, they were obviously half a beat too slow. They had completely misjudged the blood-chilling evil punishing spear that pierced through space and time. Isn't this Master Yi a little too powerful? That's right. He killed 4 cultivators of the same level in one move. Is he still human? The problem should be with his divine artifact. His divine artifact is a 5 Thunder Tribulation Feather Divine Artifact. It can pierce through space and time. Night Sorrow, in his explosive state, killed 4 law enforcers with a simple move. The surrounding cultivators couldn't help but exclaim and discuss. Captain is so strong. Niu Patian, who had just taken out a pill and fed it to Xianjizi, was shocked. Night Sorrow was usually gentle and polite. Who would have thought that he would be so terrifying when he exploded? It was as if he had transformed into an ancient beast. That explosive aura was not something that an ordinary lower feather god could possess. I didn't know that you had some skills. But do you think that you can escape from my punishment after killing 4 good-for-nothings? Lu Jiangtian laughed indifferently after his 4 subordinates were killed. Obviously, he was cold-blooded by nature. As he spoke, he suddenly stabbed with his sword. This time it was a sneak attack. The dark red sword light was dozens of times more dazzling than the one that had just stabbed at Xianjizi. You're too arrogant. I didn't want to escape at all. It was not Night Sorrow's character to not resist after being bullied like this. He roared and waved the blood-chilling evil punishing spear, using the infinite destruction slash. The blood-chilling evil punishing spear's original attributes were most suitable for killing demons. After being upgraded to a divine artifact, it had been integrated with the space-time attribute and the infinite attribute. Both the infinite destruction slash and the space-time destruction slash could be used. Boom. The spear and the sword collided. Night Sorrow and Lu Jiangtian both retreated dozens of steps. I didn't expect that a lower feather god like you would have such amazing strength. I really underestimated you. Under the watchful eyes of so many people, Lu Jiangtian, who was extremely concerned about his reputation, was infuriated to see that Zhang Xian was able to fight a lesser feather god to a draw. I didn't expect you to be so weak either. I'm afraid that your true strength is only slightly stronger than a middle feather god. You should be the weakest among the upper feather gods. A divine artifact with 5 Thunder Tribulation feathers is simply a waste in your hands. Night Sorrow mocked disdainfully. The many cultivators who had witnessed the 2 of them being evenly matched were even more shocked. It was the first time that a lower feather god had fought a higher feather god head-on, and not been at a disadvantage. The last time I saw such a situation was the Heartless Divine King 4 eras ago. At that time, the Heartless Divine King was a lower feather god, and fought a higher feather god. In the end, both sides were injured. Could it be that Master Knight has the potential to become the Divine King? An elderly cultivator among the spectators exclaimed in admiration. Our Haibei city is located in a remote corner and lacks geniuses. The other cities in the Divine Realm look down on us. Now another genius has finally appeared. This is a great blessing. The world had luck, and so did the cities. Haibei City hadn't had an expert for a long time, so its luck was getting worse and worse. Now that Night Sorrow had appeared, many people were happy. Bastard! I'm the future #1 expert of Haibei City. Hearing the crowd's discussion, the furious Lu Jiangtian glared at Night Sorrow and said word by word, "Today, you will die without a doubt." Originally, Lu Jiangtian had wanted to suppress Night Sorrow and make Night Sorrow forge weapons for him for a long time. Now the jealousy in his heart made him go completely crazy. "I'll let you have a taste of my ultimate skill." The crazy Lu Jiangtian roared and transformed into an azure dragon. He waved his long sword and slashed out his strongest ultimate skill. Azure Dragon Heaven Slaying Sword. It turned out that Lu Jiangtian's true form was an azure dragon. Chapter 2384. Azure Dragon Heaven Slaying Sword. Legend has it that this is a move created by the divine king of the Azure Dragons when he was young. It's an incomparably tyrannical secret art. I wonder if Master Knight can resist it. It's rare for a genius to appear in Haibei City, who can challenge those of a higher level. He won't be obliterated just like that, right? Everyone discussed animatedly. This move is indeed powerful. The sword intent of the Azure Dragon Heaven Slaying Sword was extremely shocking, causing Night Sorrow to feel apprehensive. Night Sorrow unreservedly circulated the golden merit energy to protect his body, and displayed the secret art he had just learned, Sky Illuminating Dragon Capturing Hands. This was what he had won from a bet with Wenrun Hao. Sky Illuminating Dragon Capturing Hands. From the name, it could be seen that it was somewhat effective against dragons. Lu Jiangtian, you really have a bad character and are hated by the heavens. I casually learned a secret art that is targeted at you. Night Sorrow, who had instantly transformed his body into 100 Zhonglong, directly used Sky Illuminating Dragon Capturing Hands to grab Lu Jiangtian's body that had transformed into an azure dragon. This was a battle that would cause both sides to suffer. If Lu Jiangtian chose to face it head-on, Night Sorrow would definitely be slashed, but he would also be hit by Sky Illuminating Dragon Capturing Hands. If Night Sorrow was hit, his injuries would definitely be more serious. Damn it. However, Lu Jiangtian did not have the determination of Night Sorrow, who had experienced hundreds of battles, and was not afraid of death. He immediately transformed back into his human form and dodged Night Sorrow's Sky Illuminating Dragon Capturing Hands. Sky Illuminating Dragon Capturing Hands was a secret art that was developed against dragons. It was very effective against his dragon body. If you retreat, you will be completely defeated. Seeing Lu Jiangtian's performance, Night Sorrow revealed a mocking smile and stabbed out with the blood-chilling evil vanquishing spear. The simple and unadorned spear pierced through the void. Lu Jiangtian wanted to use his long sword to block, but he realized that his speed could not keep up. How could he have known that Night Sorrow had only used 3 times the time and space acceleration to refine a divine weapon for him? The blood-chilling evil vanquishing spear was much stronger. This difference caused the two's speed to be completely unequal. Pooh. Although Night Sorrow didn't have much of an advantage in terms of divine yuan qi, the advantage brought by the divine weapon gave him a clear advantage in terms of speed. His spear pierced through Lu Jiangtian's chest. How is this possible? Why is it so fast? Lu Jiangtian was a high-level feather god, but he couldn't figure out why there was such a huge gap between the 5 divine weapons of Thunder Calamity. Nothing is impossible. I said that you will die under this sword. Night Sorrow coldly used his spiritual energy to pick up the sword that had fallen to the ground, and placed it against Lu Jiangtian's neck, preparing to end his life with a single strike. Gods were immortal, but if they were killed by someone and had their soul destroyed, they would be completely obliterated. Spare me, Master Night Sorrow. Please spare my life. I was just confused for a moment. Please forgive me, Master Night Sorrow. Lu Jiangtian, whose body had been pierced by the blood-chilling evil-slaying spear, was in a very bad state. However, he gritted his teeth and knelt on the ground to apologize. Let you go? So that you can continue to target me? Night Sorrow sneered. Stop. At this moment, a shout came from the distant sky. It was Zhuowei, the law enforcement captain of the Central District of Haibei City. He had arrived with his subordinates. Like Morongbai, he was one of the 5 law enforcement captains of Haibei City, and was a half-step high god. Lu Jiangtian, on the other hand, was only one of the law enforcement captains of the Sea Sky Bazaar. They were not on the same level. Who can tell me what's going on here? Zhuo Wei's face was solemn, and he gave off a very strong pressure. Captain Zhuo Wei, not only did Knight Sorrow refuse to pay his share, but he also injured 2 of my subordinates. I brought people to capture him, but he killed 4 of my subordinates. Now I'm also injured by him. Captain Zhuo Wei, please help Jiang Tian. Knight Sorrow put away the blood-chilling evil-slaying spear. Without the spear's restraint, Lu Jiangtian collapsed to the ground and complained before he could get up. You're an upper-level feather god, but you were injured by a lower-level feather god? And it was 5 against 1? Hearing Lu Jiangtian's words, Zhuo Wei slowly landed on the ground and retorted with a look of disdain. It was indeed embarrassing for an upper-level feather god to be defeated by a lower-level feather god. This had not happened in Haibei City for many eras. The battle had happened so quickly that Zhuo Wei did not see the details of the battle. When he arrived, all he saw was Knight Sorrow preparing to kill someone. This Knight Sorrow looks like a lower-level feather god, but his strength is similar to an upper-level feather god. Lu Jiangtian complained in his heart. He had discovered this point during the battle earlier. While Knight Sorrow's raw strength might be slightly weaker than his, the battle prowess he displayed when going all out was not inferior to his at all. Oh, did you learn some kind of cultivation technique to conceal your cultivation? Zhuo Wei curiously sized up Yishan when he heard Lu Jiangtian's words. It's not that Knight Sorrow is too strong, but that Lu Jiangtian is too weak. On the surface, he looks like an upper-level feather god, but his foundation is not stable. His strength is not comparable to most middle-level feather gods. In fact, Knight Sorrow only told half the truth. Although Lu Jiangtian's strength was average, he lost mainly because he did not have the courage to fight. This was because he had been in the Sea Sky Empire for a long time. So you're saying that a lower-level feather god like you is stronger than the average middle-level feather god? Zhuo Wei had the appearance of a young man with a beard. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, and he had a rather cold temperament. I'm not stronger than the average middle-level feather god, but I might not lose in a fight, Knight Sorrow said honestly. Good. You're very good. You're a talent. Zhuo Wei nodded and praised, then said with a cold expression, but talent is talent. What's going on today? Is Lu Jiangtian telling the truth? I will not show mercy to anyone who dares to cause trouble in my, Zhuo Wei's jurisdiction. His sword-like eyebrows twitched, giving people a sense of oppression that made it hard to breathe. Knight Sorrow felt this pressure very clearly. This was another existence he could not fight against. Of course it's not the truth. Knight Sorrow took out the video crystal that he had secretly recorded in Lu Jiangtian's house, as well as the one he had just recorded. He handed it to Zhuo Wei and said, "You'll know what's going on when you see it." "Okay. I'll tell you after I see it." Zhuo Wei took the 2 video crystals and watched them carefully from beginning to end. He said angrily, "Lu Jiangtian, you good for nothing. I didn't expect you to be this kind of trash. Men, take him back." After ordering his men to take Lu Jiangtian away, Zhuo Wei looked at Knight Sorrow and said, "Are you interested in a drink or two?" To be honest, Lord Zhuo Wei, Knight Sorrow has an urgent matter to attend to. Knight Sorrow told him the truth about his family's injuries, and told him that he was going to meet the woman who had left the note. He was in no mood to drink because of his family's matters. Good. You're a sentimental person. Cultivators like us should be like this. I'll help you find out about your family's matters. Zhuo Wei did not care about being refused a drink. Before leaving, he threw Lu Jiangtian's sword and said, "This is the compensation you deserve. As for Lu Jiangtian, I don't know how many reincarnations it will be before we meet again." Lord, don't. Hearing Zhuo Wei's words, Lu Jiangtian wanted to cry. He was an old man in Haibei City and knew that Zhuo Wei wanted to banish him to the most terrifying prison in Haibei City, Endless Bone Region. Brother Lu, take care. Chapter 2385. The Endless Bone Region. It was a small world where Haibei City had exiled all kinds of criminals since ancient times. There were countless skeletal creatures that could come back from the dead, and the cultivator's divine essence chi and divine soul power would be severely suppressed. It was not impossible for the cultivators who were exiled to come out successfully. It would take 3 or 4 reincarnations. As for how many years that would be, it was impossible to calculate. Lu Jiangtian's fate of being exiled to the Endless Bone region was actually worse than having his divine soul destroyed. Brother Xianjizi, how are your injuries? After sending off Shuo Wei and the others, Night Sorrow turned to look at Xianjizi, who was lying on the side and recuperating, and asked with concern. These 4 Thunder Tribulation defensive robes are really good. I originally thought that I would be killed by his sword, but I found that it was not a big deal. My bones were not damaged, and I will recover after a period of recuperation. Xianjizi said with relief. It's all my fault for bringing this disaster. When I come back, we brothers will have a good drink. In a hurry to find the female cultivator who left the note, Night Sorrow did not say much. He asked Neopatian to take good care of Xianjizi, and left the market in a hurry. When Night Sorrow arrived at Nanhuai Alley, it was as quiet as usual. Excuse me, is there anyone in the mansion? Night Sorrow asked as he landed in front of the ancient-looking mansion. Out of courtesy, he did not directly use his divine soul power to probe. Of course there is. We have been waiting for you for many days. A sullen female voice sounded from the mansion. Then she said in an extremely indignant tone. You are Night Sorrow, right? What a great honor. I have to invite you several times before you come. Hee, I was too busy a few days ago, so I am here now. Night Sorrow smiled and apologized. The other party was related to the safety of Yi Linghuan and the others, so he did not want to leave a bad impression. You are probably here for the clues to treat your family. The female voice snorted and continued. If you can break the formation at the door, we can talk inside. I am just a maid, and my family's young miss is waiting for you inside. If you can't break it, just leave. An upper-level feather god is only a maid? What's the cultivation level of the young lady inside? Although he couldn't see the female voice, Night Sorrow was able to confirm that she was an upper-level feather god at such a close distance. This high-level feather god actually dared to call her a mere servant girl. Night Sorrow was surprised, but he didn't say anything. Since the other party mentioned breaking the formation, it was obvious that he wanted to test him and see if he had any value. For the sake of Grandpa Misty and little Luo, I must break this formation before me. After making up his mind, Night Sorrow took a few steps towards the door. Gradually, he realized that something was wrong. After passing through the door, he entered a small world filled with birds and flowers. There was no sun in this small world, but it was not dim. The aura was different from the divine realm. It felt like a paradise. Is this an illusion set up by a formation? Although he was anxious about Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Shaluo, Yi Shang completely relaxed after entering the small world. He carefully sensed everything in the small world, because the greatest taboo in breaking formations was to be impatient. Time attribute, space attribute, life attribute, death attribute. This small illusion formation actually contains 4 attributes: space-time attribute and infinity attribute. Night Sorrow was very familiar with the attributes he detected. Combining them with the divine level formation diagrams he learned, he began to think of a way to break the formation. However, according to the divine level formation diagrams, he realized that there was no way to break the formation. He couldn't find any formation core or formation patterns. Space-time attribute and infinity attribute. If I add the destruction attribute, it will be the reincarnation attribute. If I add the void attribute, it will be the primordial attribute. After that, Night Sorrow focused on the attributes. He wondered if breaking the formation would require him to use his own attributes to form another attribute. However, if I form the taboo attribute, will it attract unnecessary trouble? After pondering for a while, Night Sorrow made up his mind. His family was still waiting for treatment. What was there to hesitate about? He would just deal with whatever came his way. Hence, he began to add the void attribute to the small world, allowing it to go through complicated combinations to form the primordial attribute. As expected, after the primordial attribute was formed, The small world suddenly became a new world. This world was a long and narrow canyon with the smell of taboo. Yishang walked along the canyon, and soon walked out of the illusory formation. He walked into a simple courtyard. This courtyard was planted with eggplants, chili, and other common crops. It also reared chickens, ducks, and other common poultry. Is there anyone here? Night Sorrow, who was not sure if he was still in the illusion, shouted. Night Sorrow, not only do you have the power of merit, you also have the taboo attribute. I found the right person. After a while, a young woman walked out of the simple farmhouse. The woman looked to be in her early 20s. She wore simple linen clothes, giving off an extremely otherworldly feeling. How did you know that I have the taboo attribute? After combining the taboo attribute, Night Sorrow was already prepared to be discovered. However, he did not understand how the other party found out that he had the taboo attribute. There are many secret techniques in the realm of gods that you have never heard of. The otherworldly woman did not directly tell Night Sorrow. Instead, she said softly, My name is Long Tianqing. I've called you here for 2 things. Which 2 things? Night Sorrow followed her words and asked. Although Long Tianqing had restrained her aura, Night Sorrow felt that she should be stronger than the underworld god. He could not help but think. Who is this woman? Didn't they say that there were only 5 exalted gods in High Bay City? And they are all male cultivators. The first thing is that I can temporarily alleviate the injuries of your family members. I also know where to refine elixirs to treat your family members. Long Tianqing said emotionlessly. Then she continued. The second thing is that I want you to do something for me. If you can heal my family members' injuries, doing something for you is naturally not a problem. Night Sorrow was rather excited when he heard what she said. Originally, he thought that he would at most get some clues on this trip. He did not expect to get an unexpected reward. I heard that you are about to go to the cave residence of the Divine Lord Jinyuan. Is this true? Long Tianqing asked. It is true. It is not a secret. Night Sorrow answered truthfully. Long Tianqing nodded and said, I need you to get a letter from the Divine Lord Jinyuan's cave residence for me. A letter? What letter is it? Night Sorrow asked, puzzled. The letter he left for me. If you can obtain an opportunity in the cave residence, you will naturally see it. Long Tianqing's eyes dimmed slightly. You are the Divine Lord Jinyuan's. Seeing the woman's reaction, Night Sorrow suddenly understood something. Don't ask unnecessary questions. Now, take me to your family members. I can't cure them, but I can slow down the speed at which the divine power corrodes their bodies. Chapter 2386. Actually, just as Long Tianqing thought, Night Sorrow had some questions that he couldn't figure out. For example, why would Long Tianqing find him when there were so many people about to enter the residence of the divine monarch Jinyuan? After pondering for a moment, Night Sorrow said cautiously, I can't see through your strength, but you are definitely much stronger than me. Bringing you to meet my family members is risking their lives. I will bring my injured family members here. Also, before that, we have to make a heavenly oath. The hidden island was a paradise that Yishang had found for his family with great difficulty. He definitely wouldn't bring anyone there, let alone an expert whose strength he couldn't see through. All right. If I were you, I would make the same choice. I will wait for you here. You have already mastered the method to break the formation. Next time, you can come in directly. Long Tianqing said softly and raised her finger to make a heavenly oath. Then she returned to the simple farmhouse. Okay, senior. I will return as soon as possible. She could be the confidant of the divine monarch Jinyuan, and the divine monarch Jinyuan was a legendary figure. Night Sorrow felt that there was nothing wrong with calling her senior. After making the same heavenly oath, Night Sorrow turned and walked out. He didn't set up any formation on the way out. Hey. Remember to come back as soon as possible. Don't delay any longer. Our Mrs. Time is very precious. Long Tianqing didn't rush him, but her maid Qing he was a sharp-tongued person. She chattered on for a while. Got it. Night Sorrow didn't say much to her. He returned to the market and said a few words to Xianjizi and Neopatian. Then he left High Bay City and went straight to the hidden island. Something's wrong. Someone is following me. After leaving High Bay City, Night Sorrow realized that someone was following him before he even reached the seaside. Haha, you're quite alert. Night Sorrow had just stopped in the sky above a mountain when a burst of unbridled laughter came from behind him. Wenren Hao, it's you. Why are you following me? Night Sorrow looked over and realized that the stalker was Wenren Hao, who was dressed in black. Haha, why am I following you? Naturally, he wanted to kill you. I've said it before. I'll take back everything I've lost to you. Today is the day your soul is destroyed. Wenren Hao's murderous aura was very strong, and his eyes were filled with hatred. Not only did he lose all his wealth to Night Sorrow, he even knelt down and kowtowed to Night Sorrow, which left an endless shadow in his heart. You think you can kill me? Don't you know what happened today? Lu Jiangtian, who possessed 5 Thunder Tribulation divine artifacts, had just been defeated by Night Sorrow in public today. This matter had caused an uproar in High Bay City. Night Sorrow felt that Wenren Hao should know about this matter. Humph. Of course I know that you defeated Lu Jiangtian today, and I was at the scene. Wenren Hao snorted and said disdainfully. Do you think I'm Lu Jiangtian, that piece of trash without any guts? With your strength, even if you rely on a divine artifact, you're still not my match. Whether I'm your match or not, we'll only know after we fight. Facing the confident Wenren Hao, Night Sorrow didn't know whether to call him confident or arrogant. Good. Today I'll let you know why you're going to die. Come and see what this is. Wenren Hao, with a ferocious expression, pulled out a sword that was about 1 meter long and glowing with black light from his waist. 6 Thunder Tribulation divine artifact? This sword's aura was much stronger than the one Yishang had forged for Lu Jiangtian. He could tell at a glance that this was a divine weapon with 6 lightning tribulation feathers. Moreover, it was a divine weapon with 6 lightning tribulation feathers that perfectly complemented each other. It definitely wasn't like Lu Jiangtian's sword, which looked impressive but was useless. That's right. In order to kill you, I stole this Heartbreak Dark Soul Blade from the young master of Mingju. You should be able to die in peace at the hands of a 6 Thunder Tribulation divine artifact. Ha ha ha. Wenren Hao's face was filled with madness. To be able to kill a rare genius like you in High Bay City and take away your destiny, Wenren Hao. Stop. Stop. Hurry up if you want to kill me. Are you crazy for dilly-dallying over there? The people of the God Realm were all freaks. Night Sorrow was speechless as he scolded him. He was secretly thinking of a countermeasure. An upper-level feather god, who was close to becoming a high god with a 6 Thunder Tribulation divine artifact, was not to be underestimated. No matter what, he was only a lower-level feather god. Next, I'll show you the terror of a 6 Thunder Tribulation divine artifact. Wenren Hao roared crazily as he slashed out with his sword. The black sword light went straight for Night Sorrow's chest. Actually, it wasn't that he was being too long-winded, but that he had to vent his frustration. Oh. This Heartbreak Dark Soul Blade is stolen. You can't use its true strength. As soon as Wenren Hao attacked, Night Sorrow judged the situation. He took out the Blood-Qilin Evil Slaying Spear, and used the Infinite Great Destruction Slash. Boom. As the two collided, Night Sorrow retreated more than 300 meters while Wenren Hao took a few steps back. This is the power of a 6 Thunder Tribulation divine artifact. So what if I haven't mastered it yet? Wenren Hao laughed proudly as he gained the upper hand. Just now, Wenren Hao saw with his own eyes that Night Sorrow defeated Lu Jiangtian with the Blood-Qilin Evil Slaying Spear. Now Night Sorrow used the same move, but he was at a disadvantage. Looks like you do have some skills. No wonder you're so arrogant. Wenren Hao was indeed very strong. His divine power was amazing and he had a big advantage in terms of strength. However, Night Sorrow's body was fine even though he looked like he was in a mess. This was thanks to his body refining realm. If you don't have a backup plan, then your life will definitely end here. After the battle started, Wenren Hao was no longer as talkative as before. He immediately used the same trick as before. He wielded the Heartbreak Dark Soul Blade with the 6 Thunder Tribulation divine artifact, and slashed out hundreds of sword lights. Hundreds of black sword lights shot out from nowhere. Night Sorrow immediately felt great pressure. He used the blood-chilling evil-slaying spear to block the sword lights. The sword lights that were repelled by the blood-chilling evil-slaying spear flattened the hill below him. Only when I'm suppressed can I comprehend the true meaning of battle in a desperate situation. I can't always rely on the reincarnation heavenly halberd. The reincarnation heavenly halberd was a taboo weapon. If he used it in a battle, it would naturally turn the situation around. However, Night Sorrow felt that if he used it all the time, he would lose the will to fight. Furthermore, Yishang had just arrived in the God Realm, so he felt that he was too unfamiliar with God Realm battles. When he battled with Shang Guanlin and Lu Jiangtian, he had relied on external forces to win. It didn't improve his control over his divine power. Therefore, even though he was suppressed by Wenren Hao, Night Sorrow didn't use his power of virtue, or the reincarnation heavenly halberd. He only used the blood-chilling evil-slaying spear to attack, the Thousand Realms defense body and the void robe to defend himself, and the void steps to move around. Bastard. This brat is really troublesome. Night Sorrow was defeated, but he didn't fall. Wenren Hao gradually became impatient. He realized that he had underestimated his opponent. As the battle progressed, Night Sorrow became more and more experienced. He became more and more difficult to deal with. Moreover, it seemed that his divine power wasn't exhausted at all. Chapter 2387. Bloodthirsty God-Killing Slash. Wenren Hao didn't want any undue delay. He had made up his mind to kill. Wenren Hao revealed a crazed expression. He directly drew out 80% of his divine power, and used the heartbreaking Dark Soul Blade to launch an attack that could change the color of heaven and earth. Styx had taught Wenren Hao this technique to save his life. When he was a middle-level feather god, he had used this technique to kill an upper-level feather god. This was his trump card. The Heartbreak Dark Soul Blade slashed out a dark sword light. The sword light contained a strong destructive attribute. It cut through space and time, directly slashing down on Night Sorrow's head. Not good. This technique is so powerful. If I don't use all my trump cards, I won't be able to take it. An upper-level feather god had used 80% of his divine power to perform this technique. It was so terrifying. Night Sorrow felt a strong sense of danger. He felt that his life was in danger. Under the pressure of life and death, he suddenly had an epiphany and perfected his spear technique. When this spear is used, it is either life or death. Let's call it the life and death reincarnation spear. When one's life was in danger, it would be stupid to train one's battle technique. Night Sorrow didn't hesitate. He used his power of virtue to protect his body and burned all his divine power. He took out the reincarnation heavenly halberd, and used the life and death reincarnation spear that he had comprehended at the critical moment. Night Sorrow didn't use the blood-chilling evil-slaying spear because it was a bit weaker than the heartbreaking Dark Soul Blade. Boom. The two beams of light collided with each other, and the surrounding void was blasted apart. Countless deep craters were blasted into the ground beneath their feet. I lost. I lost to a low-level feather god? How did he do it? How is this possible? After the collision, Wenren Hao was blasted away for more than 3,000 miles. Countless cracks appeared on his body. He looked terrifying. Night Sorrow was also blasted away for more than 1,000 miles. His body was also severely injured, but it wasn't fatal. Wenren Hao could feel everything clearly. He knew that he couldn't kill Yishang even with his strongest attack. Now that he had used up all his god power, he didn't have the strength to fight anymore. He hurriedly swallowed a few god pellets and fled 10,000 li away in a flash. You want to run? Do you think you can escape? Wenren Hao had even taken out his forbidden divine weapon, the reincarnation spear. This was equivalent to exposing one of his trump cards. How could Night Sorrow let Wenren Hao escape? His godly power was also exhausted. He broke his left arm and used the Wuji body forging art to absorb it. Then he carried the heavenly Samsara halberd and chased after Wenren Hao. The everlasting body tempering art absorbed the body's essence blood and recovered divine power at a much faster rate than elixirs. Soon, Night Sorrow intercepted Wenren Hao above a lake. Stop your pointless resistance. If you want to kill someone, you have to be prepared to be killed. Go to hell. Without any superfluous words, Night Sorrow directly used the Samsara halberd to cut through the void and completely shattered Wenrenhao's body. He grabbed Wenrenhao's spirit, which was about to escape, and also shattered it. Wenrenhao had used his strongest move, but he had still been killed. He hadn't been able to say a single word before he died. He was filled with unwillingness as his soul was destroyed. This battle has caused too much of a commotion. I have to leave quickly. Wenrenhao's body had already been turned into dust. Without a spatial artifact, he only left a chipped Heartbreak Dark Soul blade lying quietly on the ground. Night Sorrow stored the damaged Heartbreak Dark Soul blade in his spatial artifact. He was severely injured, and his godly power was almost completely depleted. He directly used a teleportation crystal to teleport back to the island. 13. What happened to you? Did you encounter a strong enemy? Seeing Night Sorrow return and severely injured, Yang Lei supported him with concern. I went through a battle, but it's nothing serious. Don't worry. How is everyone? Night Sorrow asked with concern. Everyone is doing well. There are already 3 half-step Divine Realm experts, 7 Divine Soul Uniting Realm experts, and a few Tribulation Realm experts. Even the weakest one, my godfather, is already an Imperial Realm expert. In addition, we have given this island a name. It's called Night Moon Island. Sikong Chiyu introduced the cultivation situation of the clansmen and urged. There are still many cultivation resources. Don't worry. Quickly go into seclusion to heal your injuries. The divine world was extremely suitable for cultivation. Night Sorrow had also prepared enough divine gems and other cultivation resources. Almost everyone in the Yi clan, who had suffered consecutive setbacks, was cultivating in the accelerated space. Sikong Chiyu and Yang Lei had also just broken through. They came out to drink tea to stabilize their state of mind and cultivation. Only then did they see Night Sorrow return. Everyone's cultivation progress is actually so fast. Very good. Night Sorrow praised and said, I will go take a look at Grandfather Misty and Little Luo. Then I will enter the Clear Sky Pagoda to heal. Grandfather Misty, Little Luo, I have already found a way to slow down your injuries. As long as I find Senior Long Tianqing's letter in God Monarch Jinyuan's cave abode, I will be able to completely heal you. You will soon recover and cultivate with the rest of us. Night Sorrow had just seen the 3 of them and told them the good news. This matter had been pressing on his heart like a mountain. After saying it, he felt much better. Really? Hearing this, Yi Linghuan, Lin Misty, and Yi Xiaoluo's eyes lit up. The divine power that Ling Yun left in their bodies was really too vicious. They suffered inhumane torture every day. However, Lin Misty calmed down very quickly and said with concern, I see that your injuries are serious. You had better go and heal quickly. You have suffered because of our matter. Haha, everything is worth it for the sake of my family. I think that in the near future, we will have a real foundation in the divine world. Yes, definitely. Father, I can't wait. Yi Xiaoluo squeezed out a smile and grimaced in pain. It won't be long. Night Sorrow's injuries were too serious and he had already seen everyone he wanted to see. He didn't say anything more and entered the Clear Sky Pagoda to heal. While Night Sorrow was healing, Mingi suddenly called all his subordinates to the meeting room. He announced, Wenrenhao's divine soul lamp has extinguished. He is dead. I think he died at the hands of Night Sorrow. Died at the hands of Night Sorrow? How is that possible? He is only a lower-level feather god. Did he have a breakthrough recently? Mingi said in disbelief. He was the #1 expert under Mingi. He was at the peak of the upper-level feather god, and could break through to the half-step upper-level divine realm at any time. Wenrenhao lost all his assets in a bet. He was probably unwilling to accept it, so he went to kill Night Sorrow and then killed him. This is the most likely scenario. Qing Mingzi gave his analysis and continued, We have all underestimated Night Sorrow's strength and potential. It seems that not only is his divine soul power outstanding, his battle strength should be comparable to an upper-level feather god. Everyone must be on guard against him in this trip to the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave residence. Don't worry, military advisor. We will not underestimate any outsider who enters the cave residence, Mingi said gloomily. Chapter 2388. Could it be that even Ming Qi was killed by Yi Shang? A lower feather god killed 2 upper feather gods? Who would believe that? Lin Feng, the only female cultivator present, exclaimed. Ming Qi's god's soul lamp is dimmer than usual, but it's still lit. He should be fine, Mingyi explained. His subordinates' god's soul lamps were all under his control. My lord, Night Sorrow killed Wenrenhao. How should we deal with him? Are we just going to leave him be? Mingyi asked in a low voice. Of course we won't let this go. I will kill anyone who dares to kill Mingyi. But he's still useful for the trip to the cave. When we come out of the cave, I'll kill him myself. Mingyi's eyes were cold. My lord, we haven't found out the truth yet. Isn't it inappropriate to jump to conclusions? Ming Qingzi advised. He felt that Night Sorrow was lucky and shouldn't be offended. It doesn't matter. He's just an ant. It's okay to kill him by mistake. Mingyi waved his hand. You can all leave. After all his subordinates left the hall, Mingyi smiled and said, You are come out. You are Greet's father. A valiant female cultivator in black walked into the hall. How does it feel to be half a step into the upper god realm? Mingyi looked at his daughter lovingly. I feel like I can kill any feather god realm cultivator instantly. My power is different from when I was in the feather god realm, Mingyi replied. She smiled and said, I'm the first one this time. How do you want to reward me, father? This time, I'll reward you with a divine weapon with 9 thunder feathers. Keep it for the trip to the cave. Mingyi threw his daughter a pouch-shaped spatial artifact. The value of a divine weapon with 9 thunder feathers is immeasurable. Looks like there won't be any accidents in the trip to God Jinyuan's cave, Mingyu said excitedly. There weren't many divine weapons with 9 thunder feathers in Haibei City. With this one, she could use it until she reached the upper god realm. As long as you like it. When we go to the cave, you and Mingyi will each lead a team. But remember, you can compete with each other, but you and your sister can't kill each other for anything. Mingju and Mingyu had the same father but different mothers. There was a deep conflict between their mothers. Understood, father. I'll show mercy, Mingyu said and walked out of the hall. Then she muttered, for alchemists and 4 array masters. Only 2 of them are father's subordinates. I don't know how powerful the others are. If I choose the wrong person, I won't be able to compete with the nether art. I'll reach the half-step high celestial realm before him, and come out of seclusion first. Why don't I check on the remaining 6? Night Sorrow, who knew nothing about this, was currently recuperating in the clear sky pagoda. While he was recuperating, he pondered over the life and death reincarnation spear that he had just comprehended. He felt that even though this move was extremely powerful, it consumed too much energy. He pondered how he could improve it, so that he could use it in more battles. Looks like I can only explore slowly. During the battle with Wenrenhao, Night Sorrow had familiarized himself with all the fighting techniques he had learned before. After comparing them, he felt that the realm of the gods was indeed a higher realm. The various secret arts were indeed powerful. He did not have the upper hand in the cave, so he had to think of ways to improve his strength. I'm afraid it's unrealistic to improve my cultivation in 2 years. The fastest way to improve my strength is to earn more materials for refining elixirs and weapons. I need to refine more elixirs that can recover my divine power and heal my injuries. I also need a large number of one-time use weapons that can protect me. In addition, I need to buy suitable defensive skills and movement skills. Movement skills, defensive skills, and secret arts were all better in the realm of the gods. Night Sorrow had made up his mind to start from these aspects. After recovering from his injuries, Night Sorrow put Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Shaluo into the clear sky pagoda, and rushed back to Nanhuai Alley as quickly as possible. After breaking Long Tianqing's array, Night Sorrow brought his 3 family members to see Long Tianqing. He said, Senior, these 3 are my family members. I hope you can help me. Yi Shan will definitely do his best to fulfill Senior's orders. Alright, let me take a look. Long Tianqing didn't look old. She looked like she was in her 20s. However, she gave people a feeling of vicissitudes. She responded and checked on Lin Piaomiao's condition. After a while, she sighed and said, The other party purposely left some divine yuan qi to torture them. Otherwise, it wouldn't have ended up like this. Senior, can you think of a solution? Knight Sorrow asked with concern. The three people in front of him were his family members. I can use my divine yuan qi to help them resist the divine yuan qi in their bodies. However, this is not a long-term solution. It can only last for 100 years. Within 100 years, they must be completely cured. Otherwise, the three of them will not be able to be saved. Long Tianqing explained softly. 100 years? That's good. It's better than 30 years. Thank you, Senior. Knight Sorrow cupped his hands and said respectfully. She had indeed helped him a lot. After you retrieve the letter from the cave, I will tell you the method to completely cure the three of them. Before that, your three loved ones will stay with me. Long Tianqing said without any hesitation. That's good too. Thank you, Senior. This was the only solution so far. Knight Sorrow did not say much. After chatting with Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao and Yi Shaluo for a while, he left Long Tianqing's residence. Before Knight Sorrow left Night Moon Island, he left most of the divine gems, resources and weapons he did not need to his family members. He only left the Clear Sky Pagoda, Void Magic Robe, Blood Kirin Evil Slaying Spear and Samsara Halberd. He was poor. After temporarily resolving the crisis of his family members, he returned to the market and madly refined weapons for a year. He exchanged all the materials he earned for divine gems, and appeared in Haibei City with 140,000 divine gems. His purpose was naturally to prepare to buy some defensive skills, movement skills or unique skills. Jubao Pavilion? I hope this place will give me some surprises. Jubao Pavilion was recommended to Knight Sorrow by Xian Jizi. It was one of the top 10 shops in Haibei City. The area it occupied was even bigger than Knight Sorrow's residence. Jubao Pavilion welcomes, sir. Sir, are you here to buy or pawn? Knight Sorrow's figure had just appeared outside Jubao Pavilion when a young and beautiful female practitioner came forward and asked politely, so you can pawn things here. What items can you pawn? Hearing this, Knight Sorrow secretly thought that if he had known, he would have brought the 6th Thunder Tribulation Feather Divine Weapon and the heartbreaking Dark Soul Blade. He could probably exchange it for a lot of divine gems. Sir, our Jubao Pavilion has the ability to take any item. As long as it's valuable, we will take it. The female practitioner said softly with a trace of pride in her voice. Well, very good. Chapter 2389. Knight Sorrow, who was following behind the female cultivator, couldn't help but admire the wealth of the Jubao Pavilion. My lord, we're here. Please go ahead. The female cultivator flew to the front of a pavilion and gracefully floated down. She then turned around and gestured for him to enter. What's your name? Knight Sorrow asked as they walked into the pavilion. He didn't know her name, and it wasn't convenient to talk. My lord, I don't have a name. My code name in the Jubao Pavilion is 73. The female cultivator bowed her head slightly. There was a hint of disappointment in her eyes, but she concealed it well. Okay, I got it. 73. A beautiful female cultivator, who was half a step away from the immortal realm, didn't have a name. Knight Sorrow felt a little awkward to be called 73, but he didn't comment on it because they had arrived at the area they were supposed to be at. Lord Longjio, the customer is here. Please take care of him. After entering the pavilion, 73 arranged a seat for Knight Sorrow and went inside to invite the person in charge of the pavilion. The person in charge of every pavilion in the Jubao Pavilion was a cultivator of the Divine Feather Realm. They had a lot of power, and their status was second only to the Pavilion Master and 2 Deputy Pavilion Masters. Yo, isn't this 73? I haven't seen you in a while. You've become more beautiful. The male cultivator called Lord Longjio was a male cultivator with a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks. He wore a silk robe similar to that of a shopkeeper. When he saw 73, he teased her. There was a greedy light in his eyes, which made him look aggressive. Lord Longjio, please follow me to receive the customer. 73 knew that Longjio wasn't a kind person. She was slightly afraid and quickly reminded him. She didn't want to have too much contact with him. What's the hurry? Isn't he just a trash of a divine feather realm? In my eyes, he's just a worm. Let's do something more interesting. If he wants to buy something, just wait. Longjio smirked and reached out to touch 73's cheek. Lord Longjio, please respect yourself. It's not the style of the Jubao Pavilion to make the customer wait. If the pavilion master finds out. 73's body trembled as he dodged the attack. Ha ha ha, the pavilion lord is in seclusion trying to break through to the high god stage. Right now, my brother-in-law is in charge of the Jubao Pavilion. I, Lord Jio, like your unique and reserved nature. You don't smell the same as the others. If you know what's good for you, then let Lord Jio have a good time today. But even if you don't know what's good for you, you can't escape from your Lord Jio's palm. TSK, this little face, this chest. Longjio's eyes were filled with lust as he smiled wretchedly. At the same time, he released his god-level pressure. He was a middle-level feather god. How could 73 resist him? 73's face was filled with shock and anger. He wanted to escape but he couldn't. Ninth Master. Although 73 was hired by Jubao Pavilion, I didn't sell myself to Jubao Pavilion. Please conduct yourself with dignity, Lord Jio. 73 realized that he couldn't move. He was so scared that his face was covered in tears as he hurriedly begged for mercy. She was once the eldest daughter of a cultivator clan. Later, her clan was exterminated and she was forced to wander to Haibei City. In order to make a living, she came to this treasure-gathering pavilion to work as a receptionist. As the former jewel of the family, although 73's cultivation wasn't very high, she had a clean and honest heart. What? You're just a lowly servant. You let me, Lord Jio, pamper you, and you're still unwilling? You want to refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit? I'll see if you have the guts today. Hearing 73's begging for mercy, Longjio, who had toyed with several female cultivators to death, immediately changed his expression and said, I'll let you go next. Obediently play the flute for me. Otherwise you can imagine the consequences. After saying this, Longjio withdrew his god-level pressure. 73 didn't hesitate and directly pulled out his sword to commit suicide. Longjio sneered. Want to die? How can it be so easy? I think you're refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. He released his pressure again and controlled 73. He took off his belt with a lewd smile and said, I, Lord Jio, have been guarding these lousy books that no one wants all year round. I'm bored to death. You finally came once in a blue moon. How can I let you go? As soon as the belt was loosened, 73's maid robe was immediately opened, revealing the white undergarment inside. Hiss. You're really the best. I, Lord Jio, have good luck today. Looking at the slender waist, Longjio couldn't help but swallow his saliva. 73, who was powerless to resist, closed his eyes in humiliation and despair. But at this moment, a reprimand suddenly sounded. You, a middle-level feather god, bullied a half-step divine realm female cultivator. Aren't you too shameless? It's that customer's voice. 73 recognized the voice of Night Sorrow. Thinking of Longjio's words just now, he felt that with Night Sorrow's strength as a low-level feather god, it would be difficult to deal with Longjio's matter in Jubao Pavilion. Because although Longjio's character was not good, and was the nightmare of all the female cultivators in Jubao Pavilion, he had a very strong background. His brother-in-law was one of the deputy pavilion masters of Jubao Pavilion, Red Swallow Mountain. He was one of the 3 most powerful people in Jubao Pavilion. Customer, leave quickly. 73 kindly reminded. If you know what's good for you, leave quickly. Otherwise, I, Lord Jio, will kill you. Longjio, who had turned into a hungry pervert, waved impatiently at Night Sorrow. In front of a beauty, he did not have any other thoughts. Know what's good for you, a middle-level feather god. Is that all you have? You are worse than a beast. If it was an ordinary cultivator, he would not dare to meddle in the affairs of Jubao Pavilion, but in the face of such a situation, Night Sorrow did not tolerate it at all, and directly kicked the room where Longjio was about to act violently. Bastard! You, a low-level feather god, dare to meddle in my affairs? Go to hell. Longjio's divine essence condensed and gathered in his palm, and fiercely slapped Night Sorrow. After all, they were in the pavilion. and he did not want to make too much noise. Otherwise, even if he had the support of the deputy pavilion master, it would be too embarrassing to attack a customer. You want me to die? You don't have that ability. Night Sorrow did the exact same action and counterattacked. Everything had to be reasonable. And this shameless Long Jiu had taken the initiative to attack, which was exactly what he wanted. Boom! The divine essence from the two palms collided, and Long Jiu's body was instantly sent flying, breaking through the walls of the pavilion and flying into the distance, landing in a dense floating artificial river, looking very miserable. You are courting death. Long Jiu, who did not expect to be sent flying, was furious after suffering a great loss. After getting up, he took out a long sword with 3 lightning tribulations from his spatial artifact, and flew back to continue attacking Night Sorrow. Long Jiu used an absolute art, 9 Dragons Deity Slaying Sword. This 9 Dragons Deity Slaying Sword was an absolute art that was used in conjunction with a sword-type divine artifact. When the sword was slashed out, the sword chi turned into 9 black dragons, and separately rushed towards Night Sorrow. Not a bad absolute art, but unfortunately your strength is too weak. You can't display the true power of this move. Chapter 2390. The seemingly simple 10 spears were the result of Night Sorrow's recent spear practice. Apart from the life and death reincarnation spear, Night Sorrow also understood the principle of the simplest and the strongest, which was not inferior to the comprehension of the lost art. Night Sorrow's spear could not see the fluctuation of the spirit chi, but each spear could pierce a black dragon made of spirit chi. The 10th spear went straight for Long Jiu's neck. Not good. How can this guy be so strong? He is just a lower feather god. Brother-in-law, save me. Someone wants to kill me. Seeing his strongest lost art being easily broken, Long Jiu immediately understood that he was not Night Sorrow's opponent, and hurriedly roared while defending. This Jubao pavilion was not big, so there was no need for a sound transmission crystal. Who is making trouble in my Jubao pavilion? Night Sorrow's spear pierced through the void, and directly nailed Long Jiu to the pavilion. At the same time, there was a deep roar not far away, and a tall figure quickly flew to Long Jiu's side. Behind him, there were many people of Jubao Pavilion and cultivators who came to buy things, one after another, surrounded him. The troublemaker is beside you. As a deacon, this person not only molested 73 in front of me, but also attacked me. Is your Jubao Pavilion a shameless shop that bullies its owner? Night Sorrow guessed that the male cultivator in front of him should be Long Jiu's brother-in-law. This person was an upper feather god, and his cultivation gave a very solid feeling, unlike Long Jiu's superficial cultivation. He should be a real person. Bastard! You hurt my Jubao Pavilion's deacon for no reason, and you dare to be so arrogant? You are just a lower feather god. Who are you scolding? I think you are tired of living. Long Jiu's brother-in-law, Qi Yanshan, did not care about Night Sorrow's words at all, and directly shouted with an angry face. If Night Sorrow was an upper feather god, he would definitely be more relaxed. Facing a lower feather god, he had a sense of superiority from the bottom of his heart. Good, you are very good. I now know how Jubao Pavilion became big. Night Sorrow sneered. So what if you know? So what if you don't know? You're just an ant. Qi Yanshan also knew that Long Jiu was not an honest person, but he still wanted to protect him. Facing a lesser feather god like Night Sorrow, Red Swallow Mountain was extremely arrogant. He didn't use a divine artifact and punched where he stood. Around this fist, there was a layer of gray light. This gray light gathered into a fist made of divine essence that smashed towards Night Sorrow. The deity realm is indeed an unreasonable place. In the face of this punch, Night Sorrow also punched out, shattering the fist formed from divine Yuan Qi. A trace of anger rose in his heart. I didn't expect you to be so capable. No wonder he could defeat Long Jiu in the blink of an eye. He was probably hiding his cultivation level. He wasn't a low-level feather god. But so what? Anyone who dares to cause trouble in my Jubao Pavilion will be executed. Scarlet Swallow Mountain's attack was neutralized, but he did not panic at all. He took out 2 black iron rings from his spatial artifact and smashed them towards Night Sorrow's location. This was his 5 Thunder Feathers divine artifact, the Deadly Lover's Ring. In Scarlet Swallow Mountain's opinion, even if Night Sorrow was an upper-level feather god, it would be difficult for him to resist the Deadly Lover's Ring, so he didn't use any techniques. "You're not strong enough at all." Night Sorrow, who had recalled his spear, chose to clash with Scarlet Swallow Mountain. He wanted to see how his strength was compared to his opponent's. Clang! The result was a tie. This benefited from Night Sorrow's recent growth in battle and his enlightenment of the spear. You also have a 5 Thunder Feathers divine artifact? Scarlet Swallow Mountain was stunned when he saw the blood-chilling evil-slaying spear. Then, he laughed with greed in his eyes. "Today you will die here no matter what. Then my divine artifact will belong to you? You Jubao Pavilion are really shameless." Night Sorrow sneered. So far he didn't feel any pressure. If his life was threatened, he would leave immediately. So what? Since you dared to cause trouble at Jubao Pavilion, you should be prepared for death. At this time another Vice Lord of Jubao Pavilion appeared. He was also an upper-level feather god, but his aura was much stronger than Scarlet Swallow Mountain's. He should be infinitely close to a half-step high god. "And who are you?" Night Sorrow asked fearlessly. "I'm Jubao Pavilion's Vice Lord, Yanjiang, and the one who will take your life." Yanjiang sneered and transmitted his voice to Scarlet Swallow Mountain. "You and I both know what's going on. Why don't we attack together and kill him without giving him a chance to speak?" There were more than 1,000 cultivators watching. Yanjiang knew that letting Night Sorrow speak too much would have a negative impact on Jubao Pavilion. "Good, that's how it should be. After killing him, we'll split the resources equally." Scarlet Swallow Mountain agreed with Yanjiang's idea. He responded without hesitation. "You two shameless things. Since you're so heartless, don't blame me for being unjust. If we're going to play, let's play big." Night Sorrow was no fool. He knew that it would be difficult for him to resist the combined might of Yanjiang and Scarlet Swallow Mountain. Moreover, Jubao Pavilion had more than 20 lower-level and mid-level feather gods in addition to the two of them. Since things have come to this, I might as well go all the way and steal some useful books. These books are expensive. If I rely on artifact refinement to buy them, who knows how many years it'll take. That won't be of any help to Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave. These people from Jubao Pavilion had never been reasonable with him. Night Sorrow thought that there was no need to be polite with them. He would just cause a ruckus at Jubao Pavilion. The pavilion just now contained a spatial movement art. It's most useful to me. That's my first target. Yishang had only made his decision in an instant. Yanjiang and Qi Yanshan were still discussing how to coordinate their attacks, so that they could kill Yi Chun in one strike. Boom. All of a sudden, Night Sorrow made his move and charged into the pavilion. Yanjiang and Scarlet Swallow Mountain were stunned. They didn't understand why Night Sorrow would make such a choice. He didn't attack them, nor did he run away. Not good. He's stealing the books. Long Jiu, who wasn't seriously injured, shouted with a change in expression. The loft was under his jurisdiction, so he was the first to notice that the spatial attribute movement techniques had been stolen. What? Bastard. Yanjiang and Scarlet Swallow Mountain couldn't stay calm. Yanjiang ordered with a dark expression. "All deacons above the god realm, attack and kill this madman. Deacon Longjiu, contact the pavilion master, and see if he can come out of seclusion." According to Yanjiang's estimation, Night Sorrow's strength should be about the same as Scarlet Swallow Mountain. With such strength, if he wanted to cause trouble, they wouldn't be able to take him down easily. If he destroyed the entire Jubao Pavilion today, then it would be a huge joke. 73. Which other pavilion in Jubao Pavilion has valuable books or items? Also, where is the divine rank cultivation art worth 20 million divine crystals? Night Sorrow, who had just snatched a few spatial movement arts, put 73 into the vast heaven pagoda. He knew that this matter wouldn't end well, so he protected the witnesses first. Chapter 2391. It could be used to cultivate the godly class techniques of paramount gods, and was one of the signature treasures of the treasure pavilion. If Night Sorrow had relied on refining to accumulate divine crystals, he wouldn't have been able to buy it for many years. After all, he didn't have business every day. Now that the Jubao Pavilion had left such a bad impression on him, Knight Sorrow had to be ruthless. Replying to Milord, the divine level cultivation technique is carried by the Pavilion Master. He's currently in seclusion trying to break through to the High God realm. No one knows where he is. 73, who was hiding in his spatial artifact, was very grateful to Knight Sorrow for saving him. He said regretfully, however, there are many other rare treasures in the Jubao Pavilion. For example, there are several pill recipes in the hexagonal tower 5 kilometers to the left. 13 miles away, towards the north, there were some rare materials for refining weapons. Further away, there's 73 had been in the Jubao Pavilion for many years, and knew the distribution of various items like the back of his hand. He finished introducing Knight Sorrow in a moment. Good. What I lack the most right now are divine cultivation methods and pill recipes. Let's go snatch a few pill recipes first. To Knight Sorrow, a distance of 5 kilometers could be traversed in a flash of thought. In the next moment, he appeared in the pill recipe house of the Jubao Pavilion. The Feather God Deacon was no longer in the pill recipe house. How could a group of half-step divinity cultivators stop Knight Sorrow? Just like how he had snatched a divine spatial attribute movement technique, Knight Sorrow gently raised his hand and stored all 6 divine-grade pill recipes in the pill prescription house into his spatial dharma artifact. You, how dare you? The Jubao Pavilion had never encountered such a thing. After Knight Sorrow succeeded twice in a row, Yin Jiang and the 2 vice pavilion masters of Scarlet Swallow Mountain were furious. However, Knight Sorrow dodged their attacks several times. Knight Sorrow could easily pass through time and space. When he was focused on escaping, the 2 couldn't lock onto him. They were also afraid that if they used too much force, they'd raise the Jubao Pavilion to the ground. How dare you? You call that bold? Today, I will wipe out your unreasonable Jubao Pavilion. Knight Sorrow continued to rush towards his next target. He vaguely felt that the treasure-gathering pavilion only had a few books and a few pill recipes, which seemed a little out of place. However, what he didn't know was that what was displayed were only some samples. There were still quite a few good things that were put away by the various deacons and vice pavilion masters in their respective spatial artifacts. Boom. This time, Knight Sorrow had just landed in a pavilion when General Yin used a divine weapon to blow up the pavilion. Many of the half-step divine realm shop attendants in the pavilion exploded and died. Who would have thought that General Yin would be so ruthless? Knight Sorrow had just collected some alchemy and smithing materials when he was struck in the back and suffered some injuries. Alas! Witnessing all of this from Knight Sorrow's spatial artifact, 73 sighed. She secretly thought that these people's lives were really as cheap as ants. She felt a sense of pity for them. What a ruthless method. Getting up from the ruins in a slightly sorry state, Knight Sorrow, who had suffered some injuries, found that this short delay had caused him to be surrounded by more than 20 divine realm cultivators. Why hasn't the defensive array been activated? Hurry up and activate it and seal the space. Today, we must not let him escape. Otherwise, this will be a great humiliation to our Jubao Pavilion. General Yin roared as he surrounded Knight Sorrow in the middle. Because Knight Sorrow had a deep grasp of time and space, if there was no array to stop him, even if he was surrounded, it would not be easy to completely trap him. Haha, you want to activate the array? Not so easy. There was a defensive array where the Jubao Pavilion was located. How could Knight Sorrow not see this? In fact, someone had already tried to activate the array just now. However, the array core of this top-level Divine Realm array had already been found and destroyed by Knight Sorrow. The array had already lost 60% of its power. The fact that he did not feel that his life was in danger meant that Knight Sorrow had already thoroughly studied the Jubao Pavilion's array. This was due to the fact that Seaside City was located in a remote corner, and the array master's abilities were not enough. Not good. Reporting to Pavilion Master Yen, the array in the pavilion has basically gone out of control. Only a small area can be activated. The array masters in the Jubao Pavilion also realized that the situation was not right. Bastard. The array that we spent so many divine crystals to set up was actually broken in an instant. General Yen was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. Brother Yen, In this situation, we can only use that divine artifact of the pavilion? Otherwise, I'm afraid it will be very difficult to kill him quickly. Qi Yanshan, who was temporarily biding his time, transmitted his voice to General Yan. That is indeed the only way. Otherwise, if we continue fighting, we might be able to kill him, but the Jubao Pavilion will probably be destroyed. General Yan thought for a moment and transmitted his voice. Pin him down first. Don't be in a hurry to act. I will go to the secret pavilion to retrieve that divine artifact. All right. It shouldn't be difficult to trap him. After Qi Yanshan responded, he did not make a move. Instead, he shouted to Night Sorrow, "Friend, it is better to squash enmity than keep it alive. If you can return all the books that you stole and compensate for all the losses of the Jubao Pavilion, then we can pretend that today's matter never happened." His goal was very clear. Naturally, it was to stall for time. He was waiting for Yan Jiang to retrieve the divine artifact of the Jubao Pavilion from the secret pavilion. Compensate for your losses? It's not impossible. However, I haven't had enough today. When all the pavilions of the Jubao Pavilion collapse, then we can talk about compensation. What do you think? Yan Jiang disappeared. Night Sorrow guessed that he was either calling for reinforcements or retrieving some powerful divine artifact. Qi Yanshan's words also indirectly proved this point. Sir, 12 miles in front of you is the pawn shop of the Jubao Pavilion. There should be many items pawned by cultivators inside. At this time, 73 reminded him from the spatial artifact. With her as a living map, Night Sorrow took advantage of Yan Jiang's absence to activate the Robe of Nothingness and brandish the blood-chilling evil-slaying spear. He once again charged out of the encirclement and went straight to the next tower. Bastard! How did Long Jiu provoke such a stubborn and difficult person? Qi Yanshan, who did not stop Night Sorrow in time, cursed in his heart. However, to his relief, Night Sorrow did not intend to leave immediately. If he escaped at this moment, no one would be able to stop him. There are indeed many good things in the pawn shop. The assets in the pawn shop were accumulated over many years. Not only were there divine artifacts, there were also all kinds of rare items. There were some that even the Jubao Pavilion could not identify the specific use of. Night Sorrow, who did not have time to study, waved his hand and all of them were stored in the spatial artifact. You're courting death. After Night Sorrow's continuous success, Qi Yanshan was really angry. He directly used his blood essence to activate the deadly Mandarin Duck Bracelet and smashed it at Night Sorrow. The deadly Mandarin Duck Bracelet, which was originally a 5 Thunder Tribulation divine artifact, swallowed the blood essence of the upper-level feather god, and immediately emitted a bewitching red and black light. This red and black light directly attacked Night Sorrow's soul. Chapter 2392. Using essence blood to trigger a divine artifact to attack one's soul was no easy feat even with Night Sorrow's powerful soul. He couldn't afford to be careless. He immediately used his virtuous energy to form a golden shield around his body. The virtuous energy shield and the Robe of Nothingness worked together to reduce the impact of the fatal lover's hoop. Then he used his soul to resist it. Night Sorrow was facing a half-step high god soul suppression, as he set up a formation in the hall provided by sticks. Qi Yanshan used his essence blood to trigger the fatal lover's hoop soul attack. Although the impact wasn't small, it was still inferior to a half-step high god soul suppression. That's all there is to it. Night Sorrow, whose soul was much stronger than an ordinary cultivator's, felt a slight tremor in his soul, but it wasn't a big deal. After enduring the attack, Night Sorrow asked, "Where else is there? I'm afraid I don't have much time." Night Sorrow guessed that Na Yin would return soon. If he did, he would definitely take out the Jubao Pavilion's resources. Then he would have to leave. Plus, with such a big commotion, the enforcers might come. As long as they came, Night Sorrow wouldn't be able to steal anything no matter how bold he was. "My lord, with such a big commotion in the Jubao Pavilion, I'm afraid the other pavilions have been emptied and moved to the secret pavilion." She didn't have a good impression of the treasure-gathering pavilion, so she told Yishang everything, no matter how big or small. "The secret pavilion? Do you know how to enter?" Yishang wasn't stupid. After thinking for a bit, He felt that 73 was telling the truth. The people of Jubao Pavilion weren't idiots. Why hadn't they collected the items from the other pavilions for so long? My lord, only the pavilion lord and vice lord know the entrance to the secret pavilion, 73 said softly. She was one of the lowest-ranking people in the Jubao Pavilion. How could she know the core secrets? I understand. At the same time, Night Sorrow's figure didn't stop as he dodged all kinds of attacks. Although he hadn't cultivated the movement techniques of the celestial world, his understanding of the time and space attributes wasn't inferior to any of the cultivators present. As long as he was focused on dodging, it was difficult for him to be targeted. After confirming that there were no benefits to be gained, Night Sorrow revealed a smile. Those who are unjust are doomed to destruction. Since you provoked me today, don't blame me for being unreasonable. Then he continued to attack and destroyed the remaining pavilions of the Jubao Pavilion. However, he only attacked the pavilions and did not hurt the cultivators below the immortal realm. Today my Jubao Pavilion has been provoked. Those who are here to watch the show, please leave quickly. Otherwise, my Jubao Pavilion will not be responsible for any unnecessary injuries. Right at this moment, General Yan's gloomy voice suddenly rang out. He was issuing an order to clear the area. It was obvious that he wanted to use his trump card. After being frightened by Yin Jiang, how could the nearby spectators not understand what was going on? One by one, they flew as far away as they could. Okay, let's go. Hearing General Yan's words, Night Sorrow suddenly felt a sense of crisis. He could also feel that there was a very dangerous thing on General Yan's body. After destroying the last pavilion, Night Sorrow's figure flashed and directly rushed out of the Jubao Pavilion's range. Want to run? Humph. Do you think you can run away? General Yan's face revealed a trace of coldness. He snorted coldly and took out a black sword box from his spatial Dharma artifact. He burned his blood essence to activate it. Whoosh! 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 Countless sword rays of different colors flew out of the black sword box and madly shot toward Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow, who used his movement technique to dodge, found that even if he hid in the void, he couldn't avoid the sword rays' attacks. In a moment, he was cut by several sword rays. Against these sword rays, the defensive Dharma artifact of the void robe had no effect at all. Clearly, its defensive level was too low. If Night Sorrow didn't have the power of merit protecting his body and his own high level of body refinement, his divine body would have been countless times stronger than that of ordinary cultivators. Perhaps he would have been directly killed by the sword rays. This is the power of a forbidden feather divine artifact. The black sword box's attributes were complex and difficult to determine, but the sword rays that shot out transcended time and space and were extremely powerful. Night Sorrow guessed that it must be a forbidden divine artifact, and was thinking about how to deal with it. If these sword rays continued to shoot, he would soon be unable to resist. Haha, I just arrived and I've already seen the power of a forbidden divine artifact. This trip is really worth it. The Jubao Pavilion really has a foundation. This inferior feather god is not simple either. He can turn the Jubao Pavilion upside down and last so long under the influence of a forbidden divine artifact. How long do you think he can last in the end? Just as Night Sorrow was thinking about how to deal with the sword rays, a playful voice sounded in the sky above the Jubao Pavilion. A handsome male cultivator in the uniform of a law enforcement captain appeared on top of the clouds with more than 10 law enforcement members. They were just watching and didn't come down to stop it immediately. This handsome male cultivator was Lung Qianqiu, one of the 5 law enforcement captains of Haibei City. He looked a little feminine, but his divine essence was very majestic. He was clearly a half-step high god. There aren't many forbidden divine artifacts in the entire Haibei City. This cultivator is also an inferior feather god. I'm afraid he'll be lucky if he can last a few breaths of time, the vice-captain Chen Hui said. After pondering for a moment, Chen Hui asked, Captain, should we stop them? If City Lord Shangguan Yin finds out about this, it won't be good. After all, we're not his people. The people of the Jubao Pavilion are already jealous. We don't need to provoke them for a rogue cultivator. Besides, although we're not Shangguan Yin's people, we're not afraid of him. Don't forget that Lord Ling Xiaoya is also a high god behind us, Leng Qianqiu said indifferently. Boom. At this moment Night Sorrow, who had been hit by the sword radiance, had no choice but to use the Samsara halberd to block it. The Samsara halberd was a pure forbidden divine artifact. It naturally had no problem blocking some sword radiance. However, since he had taken out his trump card, Night Sorrow would not be satisfied with just blocking the sword radiance. As he destroyed the sword radiance, he activated the Samsara halberd and slashed at Yanjiang, who was controlling the sword case. What? You also have a forbidden divine artifact? Yanjiang's expression changed when he saw Night Sorrow blocking the sword radiance and slashing at him with the Samsara halberd. The black sword case did not belong to him. He could only use it because he was constantly burning his blood essence. Night Sorrow's Samsara halberd obviously belonged to him. He did not need to burn his blood essence to use it. What should we do? Not far away, Qi Yanshan, who was watching with a smug expression, was completely dumbfounded. He did not expect Night Sorrow to have a forbidden divine artifact. Yan Jiang, who was controlling the sword case, had no choice but to burn a large amount of blood essence to control the sword case to block the halberd descending from the sky. Chapter 2393. Taboo Divine Artifact. This rogue cultivator actually has a taboo divine artifact. Great, this is really great. Leng Qianqiu, who was originally watching coldly from the sidelines, saw Night Sorrow use a taboo divine artifact to send Yanjiang flying, and his eyes were immediately filled with excitement. He ordered, "Quickly go and control that male cultivator. Absolutely cannot let him escape." There were not many taboo divine artifacts in the entire Haibei city. Although Leng Qianqiu was one of the 5 enforcement captains, he had never owned one. Seeing Night Sorrow's Samsara halberd, the idea of taking it for himself immediately arose in his heart. Stop. All of you, stop. Do you want to beat the entire Haibei city into ruins? Leng Qianqiu ordered. Chen Hui immediately blocked in front of Night Sorrow and Yanjiang, preventing the two sides from continuing to fight. The enforcement team? Night Sorrow, who originally wanted to kill Yanjiang, saw the enforcement team appear and put away the Samsara halberd into a spatial magic artifact. Muron Bai and Zhuo Wei of the enforcement team left Night Sorrow with the impression that they were upright and outspoken law enforcement, so he was more polite to the enforcement team. Vice Captain Chen, you have to make a decision for my Jubao Pavilion. Today's matter was all caused by this bastard. Not only did he injure several people of my Jubao Pavilion for no reason, he also stole a huge amount of resources and ancient books. Our entire Jubao Pavilion was destroyed in his hands. Yanjiang was seriously injured and swallowed a medicinal pill to recover. Qi Yanshan immediately cupped his hands and complained. Qi Yanshan had been in Haibei City for many years and was much more familiar with the enforcement team than Night Sorrow. At the same time, he also knew that as long as the enforcement team appeared, there was no possibility of continuing to fight. Otherwise, he would not dare to be so close to Night Sorrow. The enforcement team belonged to the City Lord Mansion, but the 5 enforcement captains were respectively the people of the 5 great gods. Going against their will was offending all of the gods of Haibei City. That was tantamount to courting death. What exactly is going on? Don't talk nonsense. Although Chen Hui nodded and bowed in front of Leng Qianqiu, in front of others, he had a cold image, making people feel that coldness from the heart. In fact, it wasn't just him. Most of the members of the law enforcement team didn't smile when they were carrying out their missions. This person originally came to our treasure-gathering pavilion to purchase ancient books. But halfway through, he was lustful and wanted to forcefully take the bodies of our treasure-gathering pavilion's female cultivators. My Jubao Pavilion's Deacon Longjio wanted to stop them. But this person relied on his strength to injure the deacon of our treasure-gathering pavilion, Longjio. Qi Yanshan, who had just talked to Longjio, panted for a moment before continuing. After that, he even ignored the city lord's laws and madly looted my treasure-gathering pavilion. Hundreds of people have been wounded. Is there such a thing? Hearing this, Chen Hui snorted and looked at Night Sorrow. Is what he said true? Of course it's not the truth. It all started because Long Jio was lustful. I tried to stop him, but Long Jio wanted to kill me. After Long Jio was injured by me, the people of Jubao Pavilion attacked me indiscriminately. Night Sorrow, who had a good impression of the law enforcement team, patiently recounted the whole incident. The people of Jubao Pavilion bullied the weak with their spears. If it weren't for his extraordinary cultivation, he would have reincarnated long ago. You're both saying that you're right, and you're both saying that you're right. Chunhui scolded coldly. Don't you two deity realm cultivators understand that? This. Since they were in the wrong, Qi Yenshan naturally couldn't bring out any evidence that was beneficial to Jubao Pavilion. Sir, the image crystal in my hand recorded the whole incident. It can prove who's spouting nonsense. At this time, Night Sorrow took out the image crystal that had been recording since Long Jio molested 73 from his spatial artifact. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Qi Yenshan's expression immediately changed. The rules of High Bay City were set by the 5 deities. If anyone violated them, the consequences would be unimaginable. Give it to me. Taking the image crystal from Night Sorrow's hand, Chunhui scanned it with his divine soul power, and understood the ins and outs of the whole incident. You Jubao Pavilion. You don't put the city lord and the other deities in your eyes. Men, arrest everyone from Jubao Pavilion. With a cold expression, Chunhui ordered his subordinates to bring everyone from Jubao Pavilion back to the enforcement team. Then he looked at Night Sorrow. Jubao Pavilion is indeed in the wrong, but it's not a glorious thing for you to repeatedly snatch the ancient books. Come back to the enforcement team with us, and return all the ancient books you snatched. Do you have any objections to this? Chunhui naturally didn't forget Leng Qianxiu's instructions. He pretended to deal with it fairly because the enforcement team had to consider the consequences. In his heart, he thought that as long as he could trick Night Sorrow to the enforcement team, he could deal with him however he wanted. As for the taboo divine artifact, it would naturally belong to Leng Qianxiu. Okay. I'll go back with you. However, I won't return all the ancient books from Jubao Pavilion. Those who attacked me without reason will naturally have to pay the corresponding price. Night Sorrow, who cultivated the power of virtue, felt a trace of discomfort towards Chunhui. However, he didn't do anything wrong and wasn't afraid of going to the enforcement team. Good. That's straightforward enough. On the surface, there was nothing wrong with Chunhui's handling of this matter. After Night Sorrow agreed, everyone followed Leng Qianxiu to where the enforcement team of High Bay City was located. Among the onlookers, there was a beautiful black-clothed female cultivator. She was Mingyu, who originally wanted to test Night Sorrow's strength. She pondered for a moment and ultimately didn't stand up for Night Sorrow. The enforcement team of High Bay City was located in the center of High Bay City, less than 1,000 miles away from the city lord's mansion. Although it was called the enforcement team, it was actually responsible for interrogating and imprisoning various felons and foreign races in High Bay City, such as heavenly demons, hybrid fishmen, and dark creatures. Night Sorrow followed everyone to the enforcement team, and immediately felt a trace of solemnity. He thought to himself, no wonder these enforcement team members are so serious. Chunhui, take them to interrogate the people from Jubao Pavilion. You come with me. After slowly landing on the ground from the sky, Leng Qianxiu gave Chunhui an order, and looked at Night Sorrow. Okay. On the surface, Night Sorrow said yes, but in his heart he cursed. Although Leng Qianxiu restrained himself well, Night Sorrow still saw a trace of uncontrollable greed in his eyes. He thought to himself, this person is probably after my heavenly samsara halberd. However, he's a half-step high god and it's difficult for me to defeat him. Moreover, the enforcement team's defensive formation is at the high god level. I may not be able to break it. What should I do? In fact, it wasn't that Night Sorrow didn't notice anything before he came, but that he couldn't refuse at that time. If he refused the enforcement team's reasonable request in public, he would definitely be charged with a crime. Moreover, if the enforcement team and the people from Jubao Pavilion attacked at the same time, Night Sorrow would have a hard time escaping. Humph. Chapter 2394. You're quite calm. Leng Qianxiu, who was walking in front with his hands behind his back, squeezed out a sentence from between his teeth. Flying was forbidden in the law enforcement team. As the captain of the law enforcement team, Lung Qianqiu did not have the privilege of flying. I didn't violate the rules of High Bay City, so I'm naturally calm. Those who aren't calm should be those with bad intentions, right? Night Sorrow, who sensed that something was wrong, retorted. At the same time, he observed the situation around him. No matter what, he would not be the first to turn hostile. That would give the other party something to use against him. Good. Not bad. I admire your calmness. Next, I'll take you to appreciate the various small cages in the law enforcement team. I wonder if you'll still be so calm after appreciating their situation. Lung Qianqiu spoke softly with a trace of coldness in his words. It was like a venomous snake spitting out its tongue, giving people a very uncomfortable feeling. Compared to many cultivators who wanted to snatch treasures, Lung Qianqiu was very patient and was not in a hurry to make a move. He took Night Sorrow to familiarize himself with the various terrifying cages. First, the two walked into a dungeon. This dungeon was dark and filled with cultivators. Every cultivator was in an extremely sorry state. Their bodies were pierced with countless chains. All of them had disheveled hair and dirty faces. They did not have any vitality. Do you know how many years have they been imprisoned for the longest time? Haha, it's not how many years. It's several reincarnations. They spend their days in torment. They can't even reincarnate even if they want to. This kind of despair is the greatest nemesis of cultivators. As the captain, I have the right to send them here. Lung Qianqiu, who was not afraid of Night Sorrow attacking or escaping, had a sense of superiority. He took Night Sorrow to visit the law enforcement team's cages one by one. In the end, they stopped at the entrance of one of the cages. The entrance of this cage was a mirror-like circular barrier. The surface of the barrier seemed to be flowing with ripples. Lung Qianqiu sized up Night Sorrow and said, "This small cage world is called the Endless Bone Realm. I believe you should have heard of it, right?" Speaking up to here, Lung Qianqiu's body suddenly erupted with powerful divine essence energy fluctuations, and his eyes were gloomy and cold as he said, "Today, you came to the treasure-gathering pavilion to cause trouble for no reason. According to the law, you should be thrown into the Endless Bone territory. Do you know?" It was Lung Qianqiu who had been holding back all this while because he had ordered people to investigate Night Sorrow. At this moment, he already knew everything about Night Sorrow from the sound transmission. After discovering that Night Sorrow was a rogue cultivator with no backing, Lung Qianqiu no longer had any misgivings in his heart. "You despicable scum. You walked around in circles just to say these few words? Could it be that the evidence I presented was not enough? As the captain of the law enforcement team, is this how you enforce the law?" Night Sorrow scolded fearlessly. "You mean this?" Lung Qianqiu smiled as he crushed the image crystal that Night Sorrow had given to Chen Hui. "At this point, my words are the evidence. I won't beat around the bush with you. Quickly hand over the taboo divine artifact, and I will let you go. Otherwise, I will kick you into this endless bone domain. I heard that some of your family members aren't in good condition, and are still waiting for treatment." Endless bone domain. There were countless skeleton creatures that could be resurrected from the dead. Moreover, a cultivator's elemental energy and soul power would be severely suppressed inside. If a cultivator was exiled inside, it would basically take a few reincarnations for them to successfully escape. Lung Qianqiu, who knew that Night Sorrow was in a hurry to treat his family members' dantians, started to threaten him. He thought that if he could do it without bloodshed, he would try his best not to make a move to avoid causing too much trouble. After all, he wasn't the only one who had the final say in the law enforcement team. "I'm afraid that your brain is spoiled. If you want the reincarnation heavenly halberd, then take it with your strength." Night Sorrow had upgraded the reincarnation heavenly halberd to a taboo divine artifact since he started cultivating. It was like his own arm. When he heard Lung Qianqiu's words, he immediately got angry. He thought to himself, "Who do you think you are? Why should I give my things to you? You're the captain of the law enforcement team and a half-step high god." Whether it was Morongbai or Zhuowei, they had left a good impression on Night Sorrow. However, Night Sorrow despised Lung Qianqiu for his greed and his methods today. "Haha, I heard that you care about your family the most. Looks like that's not the case. Leng Qianqiu mocked. Handing over the reincarnation heavenly halberd obediently, and then being killed by you means I care about my family? Sissy, if you want the taboo divine artifact, just fight. Don't beat around the bush. Don't you have the demeanor of an expert? Night Sorrow mocked. Night Sorrow and the reincarnation heavenly halberd had experienced countless battles since he started cultivating. How could he be so easily fooled by Leng Qianqiu? Leng Qianqiu's strength was a half-step high god, which was much higher than Night Sorrow's, but he still wanted to threaten him. Obviously, he wasn't sure how powerful the feather divine artifact was, so he wanted to trick the reincarnation heavenly halberd. As for letting them go after getting the reincarnation heavenly halberd, how was that possible? Even a 3-year-old wouldn't believe it. In that case, then I'll kill you first and take the treasure. No, I won't kill you. I'll kick you into the endless bone realm and make you suffer. Seeing that his threats didn't work, Leng Qianqiu's eyes turned extremely cold. He took out a long whip and lashed it at Night Sorrow. This was Leng Qianqiu's 8th Thunder Tribulation Feather Divine Artifact, the soul-rending divine whip. It was a terrifying divine artifact that could tear apart divine souls. As the whip lashed out, it carried black energy ripples and enveloped Night Sorrow, who was very close to it. Black energy ripples curled up like poisonous snakes, bringing with them a cold and destructive aura. Being enveloped by them, Night Sorrow felt an extremely heavy pressure. This kind of pressure made him feel suffocated, as if he was being trampled under someone's feet in battle. Get lost! Night Sorrow roared and used his power of virtue to disperse the pressure. He took out the reincarnation heavenly halberd and clashed with Leng Qianqiu. In terms of momentum, Night Sorrow didn't lose at all. However, the difference in strength was too great. Night Sorrow was sent flying and almost fell into the Endless Bone Realm's spirit formation gate. That was close. A half-step high god is indeed powerful. But I should still be able to resist. There were only 2 years left in the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave. Night Sorrow, who had to fight for his family, naturally didn't want to enter the Endless Bone Realm. If he fell in, not only would Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Shaluo lose hope, but Wu Lingfei wouldn't be able to save them in time. If that happened, Night Sorrow would collapse. At this moment, Night Sorrow, who broke out in cold sweat, was clearly aware that there was only a single path before him, and it was to fight Leng Qianqiu to the death. As for the rules and laws, there was no need to think about them any longer. Very good. You're not injured after receiving my attack. A taboo divine artifact is truly amazing. But if that's all you've got, why don't you leave the divine artifact behind and jump into the Endless Bone Realm yourself? Leng Qianqiu's whip was just a simple test. Chapter 2395. After Leng Qianqiu chanted the incantation, the soul-rending whip began to change. The swaying black energy patterns gradually turned azure. Soul-rending tribulation. Azure energy rippled out like world-destroying lightning. Leng Qianqiu sneered. Destroying your soul and throwing it into the Endless Bone Realm would be a better choice. The soul-rending tribulation was an attack that could tear apart souls. He felt it was a waste to use it on a lesser feather god. You're too naive if you think you can tear my soul apart with this attack. You should think about yourself first. The enforcers weren't to be trifled with, but Night Sorrow couldn't just sit around and wait for death. He decided to use his strongest move to surprise his opponent. Reincarnation Spear. Without hesitation, Night Sorrow used the Reincarnation Spear. He knew he wasn't a match for a half-step high god. Only his strongest move could pose a threat to Leng Qianqiu. Roar. Night Sorrow had exhausted all of his divine yuan qi. The world changed color when he used the Reincarnation Spear. The Reincarnation halberd let out a hum and turned into a streak of light aimed at Leng Qianqiu's forehead. This move also attacked the soul. As a half-step high god, Leng Qianqiu was alarmed. The soul was the most important thing to a cultivator and couldn't be harmed in any way. An attack with the forbidden reincarnation attribute? It's terrifying indeed. A lesser feather god is actually a threat to me. If I hadn't become a half-step high god and experienced a trace of the heavenly Tao, I wouldn't have been able to use the divine artifact my lord gave me. This taboo divine artifact is truly extraordinary. I must have it. Lung Qianqiu didn't panic in the face of Night Sorrow's strongest attack. He activated the Dustless Robe, a divine artifact he had obtained from Shadow Hall Master Ling Xiaoya. The Dustless Robe was a deity-level robe that had yet to pass the lightning tribulation. To a deity, it was trash, but to a feather god, it was a powerful defensive treasure. As long as it was activated, its defensive power would be terrifying. After all, it was made of a deity-level material, which wasn't something a feather god could compare to. Night Sorrow's life and death reincarnation spear was supported by the heavenly halberd of Samsara, a forbidden artifact. Its power was already unstoppable in the divine feather realm. However, Lung Qianqiu, who had activated the Dustless Robe, still managed to block it. Although his soul had suffered a blow, his life force was still Wuyo. Facing the soul-splitting tribulation, Night Sorrow was under even greater pressure than Lung Qianqiu. This was because his robe of nothingness only had 5 lightning tribulation feathers. It couldn't withstand much of the soul-splitting divine whip's attacks. Coupled with the massive consumption of divine essence energy within his body, he could only use the power of virtue to resist. Buzz! Even with Night Sorrow's powerful divine soul, he was still shaken by the explosion. He felt his divine soul buzzing, and his head felt like it was about to explode. A half-step high god is that powerful? My strongest attack didn't have any effect at all? Night Sorrow, whose divine soul had been injured, was surprised to find that Lung Qianqiu was practically unharmed by the life and death reincarnation spear. However, Lung Qianqiu quickly gave Night Sorrow an answer. Seeing that Night Sorrow was injured and that his divine essence was nearly depleted, he smiled playfully. If I didn't have the high god robe, I might have been counterattacked by a lesser divine feather god like you. This taboo divine artifact of yours is truly terrifying. It's just that it can't be used in your hands. So you have the protection of the high god robe. Hearing this, Night Sorrow's face turned cold. To him, Lung Qianqiu was like a turtle that had retreated into its shell. He couldn't hurt him at all. The difference between a high god and a feather god was like heaven and earth. They couldn't be compared at all. Ha! I don't lack defensive artifacts. What I lack is the forbidden artifact in your hands. Spear arts? I can do that too. Sensing that Night Sorrow could no longer bring any pressure, Lung Qianqiu took out a black iron spear from his spatial artifact and smiled. Ever since I started cultivating, I've been cultivating the spear Dao. I only gave up when I reached the divine feather realm. Now, it seems that I can start cultivating again. Bah! Those who cultivate the spear Dao are the most masculine. A woman like you wants to sully the spear Dao? I think you shouldn't even cultivate the whip Dao. It's best if you cultivate the embroidery needle. This was Night Sorrow's disdain from the bottom of his heart. With Lung Qianqiu's personality, it was impossible for him to walk far on the spear Dao. As he cursed, Night Sorrow studied some of the things he had obtained from the treasure-gathering pavilion, to see if there was anything that could turn the situation around. He was now at an absolute disadvantage and in a very dangerous situation. If he couldn't think of a way, there were only 2 outcomes waiting for him. One was the destruction of his divine soul, and the other was being thrown into the endless bone realm. Either outcome would make him despair. You're courting death. No, it'll be hard for you to die even if you want to. I'm going to torture you and then throw you into the endless bone realm. Night Sorrow's words clearly infuriated Lung Qianqiu. It was the idea of the Umbra Hall's hall master, Ling Xiaoya, that he changed to cultivate the whip Dao after the feather god empress. In the view of the Umbra Hall's hall master, Ling Xiaoya, Lung Qianqiu's spear Dao was lacking some domineering aura. To Lung Qianqiu, this matter was a taboo in his heart. He used the iron spear that he had just taken out, and stabbed it at Night Sorrow's body with a gloomy expression. Clang! Night Sorrow, who was thinking of a countermeasure, didn't dodge. He wanted to show weakness while thinking of a way. Today's matter didn't just concern himself. It also concerned Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, Yi Shaoluo, Wu Lingfei, and everyone from the Night Moon dynasty. As long as there was a trace of hope, Night Sorrow wasn't willing to give up. Your body is not bad. and the power of virtue is even more enviable. It's just that I can't obtain these, so they're just trash. Hand over the taboo divine artifact, and I'll let you suffer less. Do you think that I, a member of the enforcement team, am useless? Lung Qianqiu was a little surprised that his spear didn't pierce Night Sorrow's skin. However, he didn't care and started threatening again. A despicable person like you better stop talking nonsense. Don't make me look down on you. Use whatever means you have. Night Sorrow will take it. Night Sorrow, who had already put away the Samsara heavenly halberd into his spatial dharma artifact, said indifferently. He wasn't afraid of being tortured. All right. Then I'll let you have a taste of my, Lung Qianqiu's, special means. This is the myriad poison heart-devouring pill refined from 10,000 types of poisonous insects. After a cultivator eats it, it'll be like having their internal organs being bitten by 10,000 types of poisonous insects. Let me have a taste. Lung Qianqiu had a perverted smile on his face as he approached Night Sorrow step by step. Torturing cultivators was one of his hobbies. Have a taste? I think you should have a taste of my myriad poison heart-devouring powder. At this moment, Night Sorrow made up his mind. He burned the blood qi in his left arm and used the Wuji body tempering art to absorb it. Then, he took out a special poison from the treasure-gathering pavilion's pawnshop from his spatial dharma artifact. Chapter 2396. The heart-loss poison powder was similar to the one Xianjizi had used in battle, but it was much more effective. It could paralyze a cultivator for a short period of time, preventing them from using their divine origin qi and soul energy. It was a notorious weapon in the god realm. Even a high god would be affected, let alone a divine feather cultivator. However, it was very troublesome to refine. It required more than 10,000 kinds of poisonous herbs, so it was very rare and more valuable than ordinary pills. You want me to enter the endless bone realm? You should go by yourself. I won't be seeing you off. Night Sorrow's heart-loss poison powder was too close for Lung Qianqiu to dodge. He was paralyzed for a short period of time. At this moment, Yishan kicked him into the entrance of the endless bone realm without hesitation. If you weren't such a wishy-washy sissy, you would have just killed me. You wouldn't have ended up like this. I knew you weren't cut out for the spear. You're not decisive at all. Night Sorrow was in a good mood after kicking Lung Qianqiu into the endless bone realm, and only suffered some damage to his divine soul and his left arm. Then what do you think is decisive? However, at that moment, a cold voice could be heard. It was Chen Hui. He had appeared in front of Night Sorrow with 20 or 30 divine feather cultivators, and surrounded him at the entrance of the endless bone realm. In fact, Chen Hui had been waiting for a long time, but Lung Qianqiu and Night Sorrow had failed to notice the high-level restriction set up by the enforcers. What do you want? Night Sorrow asked. He already knew the answer. He just wanted to buy some time so he could think of a way to deal with the situation. In his current state, he had no chance of winning against Chen Hui and more than 20 divine feather realm cultivators. If he tried to escape, he would be trapped in an exalted god realm formation. It would be more difficult than ascending to the heavens. I want to thank you for helping me get rid of that sissy Lung Qianqiu. If nothing unexpected happens, I'll take over his position. In other words, I have a chance to become a half-step high god. Chen Hui, who had been calm all this while, revealed a crazed look of joy. However, his expression soon turned serious as he ordered. Kill him as quickly as possible to prevent any unexpected events from taking place. Taboo divine artifact, you're mine. Even if I enter the endless bone realm, I won't let you off so easily. Chen Hui was like a mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Night Sorrow knew that he had no chance, so he steeled his heart and charged into the endless bone realm. If he hesitated, he might be killed by these cultivators. The fighting strength of the law enforcement team was definitely not something that the cultivators of the treasure-gathering pavilion could compare with. My family. I'm sorry. Chen Hui, you forced me into the endless bone region. Once I come out, I will take your life. Night Sorrow was a decisive person. At the same time, he was also a soft-hearted person. Entering the so-called endless bone realm, he actually did not care. However, This would cause them to miss the trip to the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave residence. That way, they wouldn't be able to help Long Tianqing find the letter and obtain the method to save Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Shaluo. If they stayed in the Endless Bone region for too long, by the time they came out, the world would have changed and they would no longer have any relatives left. As for Wu Lingfei, Night Sorrow did not even dare to imagine what kind of tragic fate awaited her. I hate it. Traversing through the chaotic passageway, Night Sorrow's heart was filled with endless hatred as his body and spirit trembled. Ordinary people would need a few reincarnations to leave the Endless Bone region. He had less than 2 years left before he had to give up on the trip to the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave. Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Shaluo would probably only be able to last for another 100 years at most. 100 years? No, as long as there's a chance, I'll get out within 2 years. Despair? That was not Night Sorrow's character. As long as there was the slightest bit of hope, he would not give up. For his family he had to fight to the end. Endless Bone region, is it? I, Night Sorrow, want to see how terrifying you are. After a brief moment of grief and indignation, Night Sorrow faced the sky and roared. He wanted to fight against time. At this time, Night Sorrow was thrown out of the passageway and landed on the ground of the Endless Bone region. This place was called the Endless Bone region, and it was said that there were many skeleton creatures that could revive the dead. However, when Night Sorrow landed, he did not see a single skeleton creature. In front of Night Sorrow's eyes was a hazy world. The sky was gray and the ground was dark red. The air was filled with poisonous gas that corroded spiritual essence and soul-devouring evil wind that suppressed the power of the soul. The poisonous gas and soul-devouring evil wind gave off a very oppressive feeling of corrosion and suppression. Moreover, they constantly attacked one's body. Being blown by the wind was like being cut by a knife. Even with Night Sorrow's physical strength, after enduring for a while, he gradually found it difficult to resist. I don't know the exact situation here. I don't have much time, so I have to hurry and find someone to ask. Time was of the essence, so Night Sorrow did not dare to delay. But at this time 73 suddenly spoke from the spatial artifact. My lord, have we really entered the Endless Bone region? 73. I have let you down. Don't worry, I will bring you out quickly. Night Sorrow originally wanted to bring 73 with him as a witness to resolve the matter at the Jubao Pavilion. However, he did not expect to bring her into the Endless Bone region. My lord, my name is Yuan Xianro, but I was called 73 in the Jubao Pavilion. Now that I have left, I will return to my original name. Yuan Xianro said her name from the spatial artifact and then said, Thank you, Lord Night Sorrow, for rescuing me from the Jubao Pavilion. I have nothing to repay you with, so I will be your slave in the future. In Yuan Xianro's opinion, even if she entered the Endless Bone region, she would still be free. It was thousands of times better than being in the Jubao Pavilion. No need. Once I bring you out, you will regain your freedom completely. Saving you was just a convenience. Don't take it to heart. I don't have time to delay now, so I will not talk to you anymore. Night Sorrow, who did not want to waste time chatting, suddenly saw someone sizing him up from a distant hillside. This person was Lung Qianqiu, who he had just kicked in. All my divine essence has been corroded, and my divine soul power has been suppressed by more than half. The moment he saw Lung Qianqiu, Night Sorrow originally wanted to avoid him. After all, he was not a match for him. However, just as he was about to move, Night Sorrow realized that he could not use his divine essence and divine soul power in the Endless Bone region. That is to say, cultivators can only rely on their physical strength in the Endless Bone region. Not only is my body strong, but I also have the power of merit. It seems that Lung Qianqiu is not a match for me. After experimenting, Night Sorrow realized that the power of merit could be used here. Moreover, there were not many people in the divine realm who practiced body refinement. Although he did not know Lung Qianqiu well, Night Sorrow guessed that with his sissy personality, he was not suitable for body refinement. Where are you going? Chapter 2397. Not good. This kid's body refinement is at the divine level. My body refinement level is very low. I'm definitely not his match in the endless bone realm. In the battle just now, Leng Qianqiu, who had the upper hand, couldn't pierce Night Sorrow's skin with his feather god spear. Therefore he knew that Night Sorrow was a body refinement maniac. Seeing Night Sorrow rushing over, Leng Qianqiu sucked in a breath of cold air, and hurriedly ran to the other side of the hill. He couldn't use divine essence chi here and couldn't fly at all. Want to run? Can you run? If not for your shamelessness and greed for the samsara heavenly halberd, I wouldn't have fallen here. I can't go to the cave abode and save my family. Now the tables had turned. Seeing that Leng Qianqiu wanted to run, Night Sorrow sneered and nimbly shuttled through the wind. How can he be so fast? The distance between the two was getting closer and closer. For the first time in his life, Leng Qianqiu felt regret. If he had just killed him back then, everything would have been fine. He wouldn't have to be in such a sorry state now. Not only was he reduced to the endless bone realm, but he was also chased up and down by a low-level feather god like prey. What is this? Leng Qianqiu, who couldn't withstand the soul-devouring evil wind, suddenly discovered that a tornado-like black wind pillar had appeared in front of him. The black wind pillar reached the sky and had a diameter of tens of thousands of miles. It gave people a sense of apocalyptic violence. This black wind pillar is too terrifying. Even a high god might not be able to withstand it. There are pursuers behind me. What should I do? Leng Qianqiu stopped at the foot of the mountain with a blank face, not knowing what to do. Why are you running? Weren't you very awesome when you were in the enforcement team? Night Sorrow, who had caught up, gave Leng Qianqiu a slap without any explanation and sent him flying horizontally. In front of absolute physical strength, Leng Qianqiu didn't even have the thought to resist. Moreover, he didn't have any divine essence chi to activate the defensive robe. He could only use his face to withstand Night Sorrow's palm. With a crisp sound, a red palm print appeared on Leng Qianqiu's somewhat feminine face. Just kill me. Leng Qianqiu, who was lying on the ground, didn't even have the intention to get up. He quietly waited for death. He knew that everything he said now would be in vain. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Although he hated Leng Qianqiu to the bone, Night Sorrow didn't have the hobby of torturing people, and was prepared to directly strangle him to death. As one of the 5 law enforcement captains in High Bay City, his status was second only to the 5 high gods. If Leng Qianqiu were to be strangled to death, it would be a great humiliation. Stop. From this moment onward, the two of you are my servants. Don't kill each other. Just as Night Sorrow made his move, a rough roar came from the top of the mountain. This voice had an earth-shattering power. Yi Shang was stunned. A chance to live? No one wanted to die if they could live. Leng Qianqiu, who had already accepted his fate, had a hint of joy in his eyes. Isn't it just being a servant? It's better than dying. What kind of look is that? Looking at Night Sorrow at the top of the mountain, he muttered with a strange expression. Night Sorrow discovered that the person standing at the top of the mountain was a muscular cultivator with a bare upper body and a tiger skin tied around his waist. This muscular cultivator had rock-like muscles, and was obviously a body refiner. He only glanced at Night Sorrow before greedily staring at Leng Qianqiu. He sized up Leng Qianqiu as if he had discovered a treasure. A moment later, Leng Qianqiu realized that the muscular male cultivator's gaze was becoming more and more evil. He couldn't help but shiver as an ominous feeling flashed through his heart. I'm in a good mood today, so you can scram. But he's mine. The muscular cultivator swallowed his saliva and cursed Night Sorrow before heading straight for Leng Qianqiu. Don't come over. Leng Qianqiu, whose cheeks were red from Night Sorrow's slaps, looked rather pitiful. I really can't bear to watch. Night Sorrow, who could already imagine what was going to happen, couldn't help but shiver as he muttered. You can only blame yourself for being too beautiful. Kill me. I beg you to kill me. Leng Qianqiu shouted with a trembling voice when he saw Night Sorrow turning and walking away and the muscular cultivator with a greedy gaze getting closer and closer. His body refinement level is at the middle level feather god level. I'm no match for him. Enjoy the feeling of being trampled by a middle level feather god. What was about to happen was too intense. Night Sorrow didn't hesitate at all, and quickly walked into the distance. Perhaps because he realized that Lung Qianqiu was truly devastatingly beautiful, the muscular cultivator shouted kindly, "Walk along the edge of the mountain range and you'll see a cultivator city 5 million miles away." "Thanks." Night Sorrow, who was worried that he had nowhere to go, replied from afar and headed in the direction that the muscular cultivator pointed. After walking for about 20 miles, Night Sorrow suddenly heard Lung Qianqiu let out an ear-piercing scream. Night Sorrow shrugged speechlessly. To cultivators, this was probably even more terrifying than having their divine soul destroyed. Is this a cultivator city in the endless bone realm? Night Sorrow walked to the location that the muscular cultivator pointed to, but didn't see any city. The ground was filled with all kinds of raging wind pillars. However, he could see a hazy valley hundreds of thousands of miles away on the opposite side of the wind pillars. There seemed to be some buildings in the valley. Unable to use the power of his divine soul to investigate, Night Sorrow could only make up his mind and rush toward the raging wind pillars. He had less than 2 years left. There was no room for hesitation at all. Hiss. This wind is even more terrifying than a high god's attack. Needless to say, even a high god would find it difficult to withstand the wind pillars. Night Sorrow, who was moving through the wind pillars, felt as if his body was about to be torn apart just by being hit by the wind. Very soon, streaks of blood appeared on his body, making him look extremely hideous. But it's fine. It's not far away and the wind pillars aren't moving fast. To Night Sorrow's relief, the wind pillars weren't moving fast. He didn't need to use too much energy to dodge them. Crack, crack. But at this moment, a skeleton suddenly emerged from the reddish-brown ground between the wind pillars. This skeleton was in the shape of a human. It was huge, about 10 times the height of an ordinary person. It held a bone knife about the same size as its body. After it emerged from the ground, it hesitated for a moment before slashing at him with its saber. Boom! The skeleton slashed at him, and Night Sorrow jumped with all his might. However, this jump brought him to a position very close to the wind pillars. He quickly ran to a relatively safe position. In this terrifying wind pillar, Night Sorrow didn't want to be in a stalemate with the skeleton. He prepared to quickly rush out of the wind pillar area. However, all kinds of skeletons kept emerging from the ground around him. There were human-shaped skeletons and beast-shaped skeletons. Each of them was huge and had amazing attack power. They were not inferior to ordinary feather gods. Chapter 2398. Looks like I can only kill my way out. Surrounded by all kinds of skeletons in the wind pillar area, and the number of skeletons kept increasing. Night Sorrow steeled his heart, and decided to take out the blood-chilling evil-slaying spear to fight. But Night Sorrow discovered that he could not use his body's divine essence, nor could he use his divine soul power. He could not take out any items from the vast heaven pagoda. No wonder the cultivators of Haibei City were silent when they heard about the endless bone realm. Sure enough, it's not a good place. Then let's fight hand to hand. Without the slightest hesitation, Night Sorrow quickly rushed towards a human-shaped skeleton in front of him. He jumped and ruthlessly kicked out at its leg. This human-shaped skeleton moved very slowly and did not dodge Night Sorrow's attack. However, its defense was especially strong, and the bones facing it were not broken. So hard. Night Sorrow, who originally wanted to break a leg bone and use it as a weapon, could not help but sigh with emotion. Although he sighed with his mouth, Night Sorrow's figure naturally did not stop. He climbed to the skeleton's shoulder and kicked at the skeleton's neck. Gotcha! The giant skeleton's neck emitted a crisp sound, but only a small part was broken. Not good. At this time, a huge wind pillar swept over from not far away. Night Sorrow hurriedly jumped off the skeleton to dodge. The slow skeleton was directly swept into the wind pillar. That was close. If I was swept in by the wind pillar, I would be dead for sure. In addition, these skeletons' bodies are too hard and not easy to deal with. But their movements are slow. It's better to use speed to rush out bit by bit. Just as Night Sorrow paused for a moment, a giant skeleton tiger suddenly pounced at him, bringing with it cracking sounds. Night Sorrow wanted to dodge, but it was already too late. Subconsciously, Night Sorrow used the power of virtue to prop up an energy shield around his body. Boom! The giant skeleton tiger that was originally pouncing towards Night Sorrow suddenly changed direction and pounced on a giant skeleton python not far away. Following that, some other skeleton creatures all left Night Sorrow's range. Clearly, they were afraid of his power of virtue. These skeletons seem to be afraid of the power of virtue. I wonder if killing them will increase my power of virtue? The power of merit was one of Night Sorrow's trump cards. If he could find a way to improve it, he would be extremely happy. However, there was a pillar of wind here that even the high gods were wary of, so he did not dare to stay for too long. He ran straight ahead, out of the area covered by the pillar of wind. Let's enter the valley and see what's going on. As soon as he entered the endless bone domain, Night Sorrow had no idea what was going on. Naturally, he wanted to find out more about this place. Walking into the valley, Night Sorrow discovered that there was indeed a gathering point for cultivators. However, it was not appropriate to call it a city, as the scale was too small. The number of cultivators was estimated to be around 100,000. Since he couldn't use his spiritual energy to check, he couldn't be sure. Are you new here? Night Sorrow had just walked into the valley when 6 or 7 cultivators surrounded him. Their chi and blood were very vigorous. Clearly, they had all cultivated body tempering techniques. However, these people's body tempering techniques had not reached the divine realm, so they could not compare to Night Sorrow. I just entered the endless bone domain today. May I ask if there are any rules here? These cultivators did not have any intelligence in their eyes. In fact, they seemed a little dull. However, they all had a fierce aura. Night Sorrow asked politely. It was not that Night Sorrow was afraid, but that he was just being polite. Rules? There's only one rule here. Whoever has the strength has the final say. A burly man explained. Then he scolded. Your robe is made of good material. Take it off and give it to me. Otherwise, I'll crush your head. Night Sorrow had cultivated the leakless true body. Not only did his aura not leak, but it was also difficult for others to see his cultivation level. Most people could not see his body tempering level. This burly man clearly did not expect a newcomer to have a higher body tempering level than him. Give it to you? Can you afford it? Hearing the burly man's threat, Yishan smiled non-committally. He thought to himself, perfect, I don't know the situation. Now that I have a reason to attack, I can take care of these cultivators and force them to tell me the truth about the endless bone realm. There was a huge divide between the Godrank realm and those below the Godrank realm. These 7 people were all at the body refinement realm below the Godrank realm, and they weren't a match for Yishang at all. In an instant, they were beaten up by Yishang to the point they were looking for their teeth on the ground, and all of them wailed as they knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Who can tell me the situation of the endless bone domain? Night Sorrow asked coldly. He did not want to waste any time. I'll tell you. The burly man who had threatened Night Sorrow was called the Python King. He was a python that had cultivated into a human body. He crawled forward on his knees and spoke. There are 4 cultivator enclaves in the endless bone domain. The rulers of these 4 enclaves are all half-step great divinity body tempering experts. With their level of body tempering, they have every right to leave the endless bone domain. Instead, they've been acting like local tyrants. Each of them commands over 100,000 cultivators. Their strength is about the same. The area we're in belongs to Master Fengling. How can we leave the endless bone domain? The Python King got to the point in one sentence. Night Sorrow perked up. There's a 7-story bone pagoda in the center of the endless bone domain. It's called the Sky-Reaching Bone Pagoda. If you can pass the 4th floor, you'll be transported out, the Python King explained. What level of body tempering does one have to reach to pass the 4th floor? Night Sorrow asked. The 1st floor requires one to be a lesser divine feather, the 2nd an intermediate divine feather, the 3rd an upper divine feather, and the 4th one beyond that. As for beyond the 4th floor, I don't know. The Python King explained truthfully. Then why don't they leave? What's the meaning behind this? Do they just want to be local tyrants in the endless bone domain? The divine realm is so vast. Is there a need to waste time here? Knight Sorrow pressed. In response to your question, my lord, there are 3 reasons for them to stay here. First, they'll be recognized by the Bone Pagoda if they pass the 7th floor. It's said that the Bone Pagoda is something even divine sovereigns would covet. The Python King spoke so quickly that he almost couldn't catch his breath. He took 2 deep breaths before continuing. Second, body tempering improves much faster in the pagoda than in the divine realm. They probably want to reach the great divinity level before returning to the divine realm. What's the 3rd reason? Both reasons were valid, but Knight Sorrow was curious. If they'd reached the half-step great divinity level, why didn't they return to the divine realm? It wouldn't be too difficult to return to the divine realm and enter the endless bone domain. They could just stir up some trouble in Seaside City and be done with it. The 3rd reason is that cultivators who enter the endless bone domain once will be rejected by the Bone Pagoda the 2nd time, the Python King explained. So that's how it is. Then I understand. Yishang nodded slightly and continued to let the Python King talk about other aspects. The Python King then explained everything that he could think of for now. What surprised Knight Sorrow the most was that the laws of time in the endless bone domain were different from those in the divine realm. Chapter 2399. There's still more than a year before I enter the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave. That means I have at least 10,000 years in the Endless Bone region. As long as I leave the Endless Bone region within 10,000 years, there's still hope for Grandfather, Misty and Luo. How could Knight Sorrow not be surprised by the Xiaocotl King's words? In a good mood he said, "Get lost all of you. I won't pursue this matter. If you offend me again I'll kill you." "Thank you for your mercy, sir. Thank you for your mercy, sir." The cultivators were stunned at first, then quickly kowtowed to express their gratitude. Is that necessary? Knight Sorrow was a little surprised. Most of the people in the Endless Bone region were criminals exiled from Haibei City. Their characters were not good to begin with. After living in a repressive environment for so many years, many of them were perverted and took pleasure in torturing others. "Sir, I'm willing to follow you. I'll be your lackey." The others quickly left, but the Xiaocotl King remained kneeling on the ground. "Are you worthy of being my subordinate?" Knight Sorrow asked. He could tell that the Xiaocotl King had something to say. "Sir, I'll be honest with you. I know where to find a body tempering manual that can help one reach the high god level." Unable to transmit his voice, the Xiaocotl King could only whisper. "Oh. A body tempering manual that can help one reach the high god level? Are you sure?" Knight Sorrow asked. Yes, I'm sure," the Xiaocotl King said quickly. "Tell me the details." Knight Sorrow was naturally very interested in a body tempering manual that could help one reach the high god level. This was one of the things he needed the most. "Sir, there are many areas in the Endless Bone region that cultivators have not explored. When I first entered the Endless Bone region, I landed in an isolated valley." The Xiaocotl King slowly explained the situation. It turned out that the valley he landed in was actually a huge formation. On the altar in the center of the formation was a body tempering manual that could help one reach the high god level. However, there were too many skeletons around the body refining art. In addition, the astral winds were too fierce. He was too weak to get close. After a while, he gave up on the idea and left the safe area of the magic array. He came to the Endless Bone realm. How can you be so sure that the body tempering tome can help a cultivator reach the high deity level? After the Xiaocotl King explained everything, Knight Sorrow voiced his doubts. The Xiaocotl King hesitated for a moment before replying. Actually, there was a half-step high god in the formation at the time. He said it himself. Then why didn't he go get the body refinement art? Knight Sorrow asked with a frown, realizing that things weren't as simple as they seemed. That lord did try to retrieve it, but he died inside. I saw him turn into a skeleton with my own eyes, the Xiaocotl King said bitterly. Even half-step high god body refinement cultivators died in there. Are you trying to screw me over? Knight Sorrow scolded. No, my lord. Don't get angry. Listen to me. The Xiaocotl King gestured for him to calm down. My lord, you've just entered and you're already a lesser divine feather. That's the first in history. If you cultivate for a few cycles, you'll easily break through to the half-step high god level. When you try again, there's a good chance you'll get the body refinement art. If you get it and cultivate for a few cycles, my lord, you might be able to. Stop. I don't have that much time. Let's stop here. How do you usually raise your body refinement levels? Night Sorrow knew that it was impossible for every cultivator to have a body tempering tome. But the cultivators here were clearly at a very high level, much stronger than those in the god realm. My lord, if you kill the skeletons in the endless bone realm, you'll get their crystal cores. They can be used to exchange for body tempering tome and cultivation time in the bone pagoda, the Xiaocotl king explained. But none of the body refinement arts you can exchange for can help you reach the high god level. I see. It seems that the endless bone realm isn't a prison, but a holy land for body tempering. It's a blessing in disguise. Night Sorrow murmured, then asked, where is the bone pagoda? Take me there and have a look. You've helped me a lot, so stay by my side from now on. As long as you don't do anything evil, I'll do my best to protect you. Night Sorrow wasn't the type to turn his back on others. He'd gotten too much information from the Xiaocotl king, so he decided to take care of him in the bone realm. Thank you, my lord. But my lord, the bone pagoda is under the control of the 4 lords' subordinates. Every time you enter, you'll have to hand over a crystal core. I don't have any, the Xiaocotl king said excitedly after receiving Night Sorrow's promise. The 4 powerhouses controlled the safe zones around the bone pagoda. Anyone who wanted to enter or cultivate in the safe zones would have to hand over a crystal core. Although the Xiaocotl king was an upper-level feather god, his body-tempering realm was not yet immortal. It would take him tens of millions of years to cultivate in the bone pagoda. I see. Where can I find a lone skeleton? Take me there quickly. Night Sorrow didn't want to waste time and ordered. My lord, there's no need to rush. We'll be in the endless bone realm for countless years anyway. The soul-devouring evil wind is blowing strongly outside the valley. Why don't I take you to familiarize yourself with East Valley City first? The Xiaocotl king couldn't help but shudder when he heard that Night Sorrow wanted to go out to hunt skeletons. The soul-devouring evil wind had been stronger recently, so it was very dangerous to go out. This was also why there were so many cultivators in East Valley City recently. Night Sorrow said, It's fine. I just came in from outside the valley. I'm fine too. But my lord, I'm weak. I'll die if I go out rashly. The Xiaocotl king said honestly. He would definitely die if he went out with his current strength. Then tell me, where is the best place to hunt skeletons? Night Sorrow still had lingering fears about the area where the evil wind was raging. He didn't want to take the risk. My lord, I have a brief map of the surrounding area. Take it and use it. With your strength, it shouldn't be too dangerous to go to some of the areas to hunt skeletons. You'll be fine as long as you're wary of other cultivators. The Python King took out a leather map from his bosom and handed it to Yi Shang as he carefully instructed. You're quite sincere. Don't worry, I won't mistreat you. Wait for me in East Valley City. Night Sorrow was quite satisfied with the Xiaocotl King's performance. He took the map and glanced at it. Then he turned and left the valley. Chapter 2400. As soon as he walked out of the valley, Night Sorrow felt pain on his skin. The soul-devouring evil wind was even fiercer than when he first arrived. Even if he was not in the area of the wind pillars, the soul-devouring evil wind was not something that ordinary people could withstand. With Night Sorrow's body refinement level as a low-level feather god, he could barely withstand it. Although it was not easy to move in the wind, he did not stop and went straight to the stone forest marked on the map. As he got closer, Night Sorrow noticed that the stone forest was at the edge of a desert. The ground and the air of the stone forest were filled with sand blown up by the soul-devouring evil wind. There was not a single cultivator around. There is indeed a lone skeleton here. As soon as he entered the stone forest formed by the weathered stone pillars, Night Sorrow found a human-shaped skeleton in less than 100 miles. Night Sorrow rushed toward the giant skeleton with a bone knife. Using his body to fight was his favorite rhythm. It was like returning to the primitive wildness. Night Sorrow did not use the power of virtue at the beginning. This was his trump card and could not be used casually. Clang! After dodging the huge skeleton's bone blade, Night Sorrow's fist landed on the skeleton's leg bone. This time, there was a loud clang as the skeleton's leg bone caved in. The punch had some effect. Night Sorrow didn't know where the skeleton's weakness was, so he used his advantage and speed to attack continuously. After fighting for a few hours, he finally shattered the skull of the giant skeleton. After the skull was shattered, the skeleton fell down and turned into a light blue crystal core the size of a fingernail. At the same time, a golden energy slowly surrounded Night Sorrow's body. After absorbing it, Night Sorrow found that his power of virtue had increased slightly. Hunting skeletons can increase my power of virtue. It seems that this is definitely my blessed land. I can become stronger quickly. Night Sorrow was very happy. Then he picked up the crystal core on the ground. A cool feeling hit him, and he felt that his palm was quite comfortable. He muttered, "Is this the currency of the Endless Bone region? Why does it contain so much energy?" Night Sorrow, who did not know the reason, did not think too much about it and continued to attack. In the past year and a half, he had accumulated 1,000 fingernail-sized crystal cores by hunting lone skeletons. Night Sorrow's power of merit had also increased by 1,000th. He was one step closer to becoming a mid-level feather god. 1,000 crystal cores should be enough to take a look at the bone tower, right? Night Sorrow had already confirmed that killing skeletons would allow him to accumulate virtue power, so he stopped attacking. He returned to East Valley City and found the Zyakotl king who had left the address. At this moment, the Python king and a female cultivator were doing primitive exercises on the stone bed, moaning and groaning. My lord!" Seeing Night Sorrow return with a package, the Python king quickly stopped moving and handed the female cultivator a crystal core the size of a fingertip, telling her to leave. After the female cultivator left, the Python king got up and asked Night Sorrow to sit down. "My lord, you've returned from a hunt. How was your harvest?" "It's these fingernail-sized crystal cores, exactly 1,000 of them." Night Sorrow opened the package and handed it to the Python king. As a newcomer, he did not know the exact value of the crystal cores. "These are crystal cores of low-level feather gods. 1,000, my lord. You hunted 1,000 skeletons in just over a year?" The Python king was shocked. Generally, it was very difficult for a low-level feather god cultivator to hunt skeletons of the same level. Just as he finished speaking, the Python king came to a realization. "Ah, I know. My lord must have killed other cultivators. Yes. Is it enough to take a look at the bone tower?" Night Sorrow did not want to talk nonsense, and did not explain. Enough. Enough. Of course it's enough. Every cultivator who wants to enter the range of the bone tower can pay 20 fingernail-sized crystal cores. The rest can be exchanged for some cultivation time in the bone tower. As for the divine-level body tempering manuals, it's not enough. The Python king explained excitedly. Night Sorrow had obtained 1,000 crystal cores so quickly. This meant that he was very capable. Perhaps he would have a chance to use him in the future. The soul-devouring evil wind is still blowing outside. You can't go to the bone tower either, right? Night Sorrow continued to ask. With enough crystal cores, he was relieved. 10,000 years was not long. He had to seize every moment. "Yes, my lord. I can't go out. However, the bone tower is easy to find. Walk out of the valley and keep walking forward. You'll see it after walking for about 5 million miles. The Python king said. "All right. Pay attention to that female cultivator in the future. She's not a good person." Night Sorrow cultivated the power of merit, and was very good at judging people. The female cultivator who had just left gave him an uncomfortable feeling. "Haha, my lord, it's nothing. She's a vixen. She doesn't have much strength. She earns crystal cores by serving all kinds of cultivators. As you know, there's no other fun in this endless bone realm. When the soul-devouring evil wind is raging, it's normal to find a female cultivator for fun." The Python king chuckled, revealing an expression that all men understood. "You're on your own. After throwing 20 crystal cores the size of a fingernail to the Python King, Night Sorrow left the stone house and prepared to go straight to the bone tower to see what it was like. Friend, please wait. However, before he could walk out of the valley, several cultivators called out to Night Sorrow. It's you. Night Sorrow turned around and saw that it was the female cultivator, who had just been done by the Python King. Together with her were 2 male cultivators at the lower level of Feather God. After realizing what was going on, Night Sorrow frowned and asked, "What do you want?" "What do we want?" "Of course, we want you to hand over the package in your hand. I didn't expect a newcomer like you to be so capable. You got 1,000 crystal cores so quickly." The female cultivator, who was called a vixen, smiled charmingly. "You didn't expect it, did you? I can smell the number of crystal cores." Her strength was very weak, barely reaching the half-step divine realm in body refinement, and it was the kind that was very superficial. "You think you can kill me with just a few of you? I advise you to go back and do what you have to do." After observing for a while, Night Sorrow found that their human forms were only transformed with a secret technique. They were very pure beast cultivators. The bodies of beast cultivators were generally very strong, but they were no match for him. "I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Hurry up and hand over the crystal cores. Otherwise, you'll be killed without mercy. This is a world where the strong are respected. Don't make a mistake." One of the male cultivators with a dark face threatened impatiently. On their side, there were 2 low-level Feather God beasts on the level of Feather God. They never failed to kill human cultivators of the same level. "Sigh. I didn't want to waste time, but you just had to force me. I've been busy for more than a year, and this barbecue won't make a difference." Chapter 2401. Ever since he ascended to the divine realm, Night Sorrow had been so busy that he never relaxed. He barely had time to eat, drink tea. He was indeed mentally exhausted. He didn't know how many years he would have to stay in the endless bone realm. When he encountered a demon beast that wanted to rob him, he immediately thought of barbecuing it. "Bastard! You think you can barbecue us? I'm going to rip out your heart and liver." The black-faced male cultivator was enraged by Night Sorrow's words. He roared and transformed into his true form. He was a black bear that was almost 1,000 feet tall. "Howl!" The other male cultivator also transformed into his true form. He was a green-furred wolf demon that was slightly smaller than the black bear. "I heard that wolf meat has a sour smell. But you're a divine tier wolf demon. You shouldn't have that smell, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to eat it. This black bear is not bad. Barbecued bear paws will definitely be delicious." Night Sorrow looked at the wolf demon, and then at the bear demon. Although his physique was at the same level as theirs, there was still a difference between their physiques. Moreover, he could use the power of merit. It shouldn't be too difficult to deal with them. At this moment, Night Sorrow's eyes suddenly lit up. He smiled and said, "You said wine? You have wine here?" Hearing the black bear's words, he was overjoyed. He thought that since cultivators couldn't use spatial artifacts in the endless bone realm, there wouldn't be anything to eat or drink. "Wine, yes, but you're a side dish." Seeing Night Sorrow's nonchalant attitude, the black bear let out a roar and slapped at Night Sorrow with its paw. This was the battle in the endless bone realm. It was simple and direct. "Let me see how strong your body is." Night Sorrow was not an ordinary low-level divine Feather God physique cultivator. He had the Merit Dao body and the Primordial Dao body. His body was not inferior to the average mid-level divine Feather God physique cultivator. This was also one of the reasons why he could easily kill skeletons of the same level. Facing the black bear's huge paw, Night Sorrow punched out and met it head-on. With a boom, the black bear was sent flying by the punch. It was easier to deal with than the skeletons that Night Sorrow had hunted. "With your ability, you still want to kill me? You really don't know the meaning of death." Night Sorrow didn't stop after his attack succeeded. He flew into the air and started punching and kicking the flying black bear. He could handle this kind of battle with ease. What kind of strength is this? How could this human cultivator's body and strength be so terrifying? I'm afraid that his physical talent isn't inferior to some of the legendary figures. The wolf demon and fox demon who had wanted to attack were all scared silly. The black bear was the strongest among them, but it was not a match for Night Sorrow. "My lord, please spare my life. Lord, please spare my life." The wolf demon transformed back into his human form and knelt on the ground, kowtowing. "Sir, I can make you happy. Please spare me." The vixen also knelt on the ground and seductively begged for mercy. "If you have the intention to kill me and snatch my crystal core, then you should be prepared to be roasted." After killing the black bear in a few moves, Night Sorrow took off a huge bear paw and threw it aside, killing the wolf demon and fox demon. Night Sorrow didn't want to be merciful to his enemies. If he showed mercy, these people might harm the Python King. Then, Night Sorrow called the Python King over and asked him to help clean up the ingredients. He found some good wine and started a fire while drinking, officially starting the barbecue. "The taste is really good. I feel that no matter what realm I cultivate to, I can't eat and drink less." Not long after, the smell of barbecue floated in the air. Night Sorrow chewed on a piece of bear paw meat and drank a mouthful of good wine, feeling very refreshed. Sigh. "My lord, the black bear and wolf demon are nothing. But the vixen has backing. There are several male cultivators who need her. But they are strong and not afraid of the soul-devouring evil wind. Now they are all out hunting skeletons. I think you should leave quickly and hide in the bone tower." The Python King, who was trembling in fear and didn't dare to take a bite, sighed and reminded. In the Endless Bone region, female cultivators were very rare. This vixen had many lovers. Now that she was killed, there might be cultivators looking for trouble with Night Sorrow. It's fine. There's nothing that a barbecue can't solve. If one meal isn't enough, then two. Night Sorrow said indifferently. The feeling of Tautai made him feel a long-lost human taste, and he had a deeper understanding of many things. He judged that those who could fancy a vixen like her shouldn't be experts and wouldn't be a big threat to him. Sigh. "My lord is so confident. What should I do?" The Python King had a sad look. After being forced to take a bite of the bear paw by Night Sorrow, his eyes suddenly lit up. "Delicious. It's so delicious. In the Endless Bone region, I have already forgotten the taste of the real thing." Then the two of them ate heartily at the entrance of the valley. Many cultivators nearby were attracted by the fragrance and gathered to watch from afar, not daring to approach. However, this didn't include a very wretched little old man. "Io. Kid, you have a lot of ideas, I like it. This old man has been bored in the Endless Bone region for so many years. Why didn't I think of eating barbecue?" The little old man winked and rubbed his hands as he walked towards Night Sorrow. "Brother, sit. What do you want to eat? Help yourself." Night Sorrow raised his head to look at the old man, and was slightly surprised. This old man was actually a powerhouse at the upper-level Feather God level. Night Sorrow, who originally couldn't finish eating, naturally wouldn't make trouble with a powerhouse for a bit of food. "Kid, not bad. You know how to do things, you have a future. Come, try this old brother's wine." The little old man handed Night Sorrow a wine gourd, then took some bear paw meat and barbecued it. He didn't like to eat wolf meat either. "Good wine. How should I address you? This wine is too precious, I can't drink too much." Night Sorrow, who drank a big mouthful of wine from the wine gourd, felt his whole body heat up, and his whole body felt comfortable. It seemed that his comprehension had improved a lot. "Hee, I don't remember old brother's name clearly, but I think it's Mo Qian. This wine is called Dao Comprehension Wine, and is a good thing produced in the Endless Bone region. It is produced once every 100 years, and you'll have to go through a lot of fighting to obtain it." The old man sighed. "Old brother, how does the Endless Bone region produce such good wine?" Night Sorrow was puzzled. There are many good things in the Endless Bone region. The most precious is the Genesis Essence. This Genesis Essence is a treasure for body refining, and the Dao Comprehension Wine is a companion of the Genesis Essence. Mo Qian said as he tore into the bear meat, his mouth full of oil. "Little brother, it's a pity that your strength is a little lacking. If you can reach the upper-level Feather God level, I can bring you to the battle 70 years later. Even if you can't get anything good, you'll still be able to accumulate some experience." You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.